Jesus is real, but you devils taught lies on Christ. So many lies that when we come with the truth, people think that the lies is the truth and that the truth is the lie.
Who changed the truth for God into a lie? In English, Jesus Christ, in Hebrew, is Yahweh Shai. So do or die. The immaculate conception is deception, along with the myth of giving gifts on December 25th. Christmas is Satan's clause, the birth of Nimrod, and not the son of God. To you was kinda odd. On the Passover, Christ was born in the spring. So now we bring the truth about the King of Kings. That's Black Jesus and not Caesar Borgias. And the facts can't be changed. It's all about the Most High. It's all about Yahweh Shai. It's all about the Most High. It's all about Yahweh Shai. It's all about the Most High. It's all about Yahweh Shai. It's all about the Most High. It's all about Yahweh Shai. It's all about the Most High.
Jesus is real, but you devils taught lies on Christ.
Hey, shalom, shalom Israel. Shalom. All right, thank you for joining us again for another class here at ISBHPK, Israelite School of Biblical History and Practical Knowledge. All right, we're here at Houston, Texas. Our address is 8524 South Braeswood Boulevard, Houston, Texas, 77071. If you're in the surrounding areas, come out, join us. We have a class where you can come down and sit down, all right? We have another school as well in San Antonio, Texas. The address is 4219 Centergate Street, San Antonio, Texas, 78217. The school's been out there over 25 years, putting this truth out in the streets. If you're in that area, go and check them out, all right? They have class, I believe, Tuesday through Thursday. Yeah. Tuesday through Thursday, all right? Just for announcements for this week, Passover. Passover is coming up April 21st. All right, that's in a couple weeks. It's going to be a Sunday. If you haven't already RSVP'd, please RSVP so that we can be prepared for you, seating-wise as well as food. All right. This is going to be April 21st at the Sterling Banquet Hall. This is going to be Hammerly Drive. All right. I think it's going to be Banquet Hall number 2. Is a specific banquet hall. Again, that's going to be on a Sunday. As for Israel will not be taking any orders until after Passover. We have a lot of garments that's being knocked out. So once Passover is over, Israel will be back and rolling. You can order your headbands, your shirts, your fringe shirts, your pants, your covered Bibles, purses with fringes on it, whatever you may want, whatever design. The sisters do a beautiful job, and they're very creative at what they do. All right, so check them out on Facebook at Israelwear. As for the brothers here in Houston, we have our own business. We deal with your essential oils, your natural body oils, all right? So for you women and men, listen, leave the cologne and perfume alone. Join Sweet Ambiance. We got everything for you. Your Creed, your Versace's, your Desire Blue, Desire Red. We do custom mixes, man. We get you smelling like nobody else, like true royalty, all right? Even for your essential oils, your frankincense, your lavenders, your patchoulis, we have it all. All right, so hit us up. The website's coming. If you want to make an order, hit us through either email or call us, and we'll definitely go ahead and facilitate that for you. Our class schedule, Monday and Wednesday, 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. All right, Friday night class is going to be 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. And then we have the Sabbath morning class, which is going to be 10 a.m. until about 2 p.m. or whenever questions are finished. All right. Kids class. Kids class is every Sunday from 2 p.m. until 3 p.m. All right. Those are as well archived, so you can go back in there and share those videos with your children, man. Give them something to listen to while they ride in the car. All right, rather than a garbage radio. All right. We have a live YouTube channel.
Just for the kids class, that's been postponed also until after Passover.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so a lot of the activities that we're doing. Am I getting some? Oh, okay. A lot of the activities that we're doing, we're postponing them until after April 21st. Okay, so the kids class is postponed. The Israelwear is postponed. What else do we do? That's really those two things. Yeah, those two things are on hold until after the 21st of April, okay?
All right. And when it comes to our YouTube channel, listen, you're on there now, but like, share, and subscribe. Share it out to your family members. We have a lot of classes on there that they need. Listen, we do this for our people, man, to get their mind and their spirit back right. All right. So like, share, and subscribe. All the ISBHPK classes, and share it with your family members. All right. We have a cable show every Tuesday at 8:30. You can find us on Comedy. We've been putting work on that Blog Talk Radio. They have a lot of archive classes on there that you can check out for years. Listen, years worth of information, worth of good classes, worth of wisdom on there. You can find that at blogtalkradio.com/Mashaba. And that, I believe that's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays now. Tuesdays and Thursdays. But you can still find an episode on there to listen while you drive to work, while you're at the house, hitting the weights, whatever you may be doing. Throw that on, play it just like music, all right? That is blogtalkradio.com/Mashaba. If you need to reach any of the teachers, the priests, we have Priest Kazaki at the number 281-707-2737. And we ask if you text during class, all right? Again, Priest Kazaki is 281-707-2737. We have Priest Kwatazak. His number is going to be 303-557-8979. Again, that number is 303-557-8979. And if you have any other type of questions or concerns, you can email us at the address isbhpk@isbhpk.org. All right? And we greatly appreciate all those that have been giving and continue to give. And with that, we're going to go ahead and pass it over.
Just on that, the vow for the school. The vow for the school, for those online that have vowed to help out the school, the alms, helping out with the rent, and things like that, please get that in as soon as possible. I'm gonna send out a text too. But yeah, it's that time. So if you'd like to help out with the rent to the school and the other things that we have, the internet, the lights, we do our part. We shoulder the burden. We definitely make sure that everything stays running. But if you'd like to help out, for those of you that are not able to put in all the physical works, for those of you that are out of town, and you want to help in some form or fashion, you can help us this way monetarily. Okay, so that those of you online that have vowed the vow, please get that in so we can get the rent paid up. Again, you can send that through the Google Wallet or through the Wells Fargo. Any other donations you'd like to give, you can send those down to the school in San Antonio or here in Houston. Books, pens, papers, cars, clothes. We're looking for a new building. We need something bigger. We need a camp vehicle. If anybody knows any good car dealers that are not crooks, anybody knows any real estate people that aren't crooks, that are fair, refer them to us. If that's your way of helping out, and some hookups, we'll take the hookups, man. We need it. So yeah, again, if you'd like to help, we appreciate those that have already helped, that have been helping through the years, sending all the apocryphers and helping with the vow. We appreciate it. We definitely do. I want to say one more thing about the Passover. If you haven't given to the Passover, please don't feel like because you haven't given, you can't attend. It's not your excuse not to attend. Still show up, still participate in the high holy day of the Most High, still come, show your face, congregate with brothers and sisters. That's the point, that we gather together, that we congregate. Okay, so don't get into that mindset like, oh, I couldn't give, so I ain't gonna show up. We ain't looking at that. If you can help out, perfect. If you can't, but you can get here, get here. Okay? So what we're gonna do, I know we usually take questions for the first hour of class, but we're gonna switch it up a little bit. I know everybody's probably wondering who's the brother next to me. Unfamiliar face. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let him introduce himself. We're gonna go right into class because it's a lot of information. I'm gonna let him introduce himself, basically state his registry, how long he's been around, and we'll do it like that. Go ahead, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My name is Nagaya. Excuse me. I go back to, I first was introduced to this information in late 1991. Probably 2 weeks after I first got it, I met the brother Kazakia. So he was a much younger man then. About almost a year after I first received the information, I actually went to New York City to learn, to study at 1 West 125th. I did meet and I was taught by the elders.
So you're not just some fly by night Israelite that made up a bunch of things and just now you're a teacher. You learned 5 years and now you're a teacher. You've been in this.
Been in it almost 30 years now. So that's what my lineage is and kind of where my relationship is. I go, like I said, I go back with Kazakia to 1991. And so definitely went back east, learned in New York. I was in Ariala's camp, and along with Kazakia, we went out to Los Angeles, opened up a school there. I was part of the running of that school. I actually ran it for quite a while. Helped establish Albuquerque. Well, they were established, but helped them further theirs. Helped establish Oklahoma City. Helped establish the initial school that was here, in San Antonio, the school that was in San Antonio, excuse me. And so we really did a lot of work, put in a lot of work, a lot of business, a lot of things we did for years ago. And to help establish some of the brothers that y'all come across and some of them that you're being taught by now. That's where my history with the truth has come in and where I am. I live in San Antonio. And talking with Kazakia, we had a conversation last week. He invited me to come down and do some teaching. I have always been known for teaching a lot of the history, that's kind of what drew me in. Everyone doesn't learn the same. Not everyone, we all, for example, we all gone to school. Not everyone likes English. Some people like English, some people like math. Some people like baseball, some people like basketball. It's okay. You can be different. We talk about, the scriptures teach us about raising a nation. Well, everybody can't do the same thing. That's not a nation. Even here in America, not everyone does the same thing. And so that's what we have to recognize is it's all right if someone doesn't do what you do or if they're not as good at one thing as you are. We're all a body. And if your entire body is all hands, then how are you going to walk? If your whole body is nothing but a head, then how are you going to digest food? You got to have a stomach. You got to have intestines. You got to have eyes to see. The eyes don't hear, the eyes see. The ears hear. And so there are many different parts to the body. There are many different aspects of the scriptures. And so we're going to kind of go into something a little bit different than we normally have. And we're going to take a lot of time. We're going to go through it thoroughly to try and make sure we answer questions as they come to your mind. But the focus of these classes that I teach is in terms of relationships with people, dealing with one another, dealing with each other, dealing with yourself, because we're all men, women, we're fathers, husbands, wives, daughters, sisters, brothers. We have to deal with one another, but we also have to deal with everybody else. And you find in the scriptures, they dealt with everyone else. We weren't isolated. When the Most High had Abraham, Abraham left his family and traveled 1,500 miles to another land, but he still dealt with those people. In fact, Lot was living amongst other nations when he lived in Sodom and Gomorrah. And so we have to know how to deal with one another and how to deal with ourselves, how to operate, how to deal, because we're not leaving this place yet. We don't know when we're leaving. Even Christ didn't know. And so that means I'm here, I've got to deal. I've got to operate. I've got to know how to behave to make sure that I do the right things and avoid the wrong things. And so we're going to go into the scriptures to kind of get an understanding through some examples. We're not going to cover, we're going to go into the stuff that people did that was good and right and just. And we're also going to go into the things that people did that was wrong and negative and evil. Because you can learn just as much from When you ride a bike, you can learn just as much from falling and scraping your knee as you can from popping a wheelie. So we're going to go into all of it so that we can get a balanced view of what took place and what's expected of us and how we can help deal with this life we live. Now, I want to break down a couple of words because this is part of the perspective we're going into. Sociology. Now, the definition I have, because we want to look at this from the perspective of sociology, is one of our aspects. Sociology is the study of a society. It's the study of a society. Now, if you write it down, fine. If you don't, that's fine. We've all got Google. We've all got access to Bing and Safari. You can look it up. But I just want you to understand the perspective that we're going into today. Sociology, the study of a society. Now, a society is the community of people living in a particular country or region, having shared customs, laws, and organization. So the society that we're starting with is the society of Israel. We were a society. We were a group, a community of people. We lived in a particular land, a particular region, and we had shared customs and laws. That's the society that we study. Now, in studying society, in studying sociology, another definition is the study of our behavior as social beings. Now, don't get caught up in the words. Social beings could be going down to the park, getting ready to shoot some hoops, and the dudes are down there, and you interact. Okay? Behavior as social beings. Being social is when you go to the grocery store and you're trying to get some apples and there aren't any apples, and so you see someone in the store and you say, excuse me, do you know someone who works here so I can find out if there's some apples? That's being social. It's not some magical, just because sociology is a big word, don't get caught up on these $5 words. It's just a matter of educating yourself to what it means. So we want to look at that. We want to look at everything from how did one individual deal with another individual. Being social is when you go home, if you have a wife and children, is going home and you and your wife communicating, how was your day, baby? Being social is when your children say, hey, daddy, hey, mommy, and you say, well, how was your day, baby? What did you do today at school? What did you learn? You just came in from your friends from playing outside. What did you guys do? That's being social. So it's not a fancy, sociology, it's a big word, but it's not complicated. And that's what we're going to study is the study of our behavior as social beings. And we're going to cover everything from the analysis of short contacts between anonymous individuals. That a short contact between anonymous individuals. Someone walks up to you in a grocery store and says, do you know where the cereal aisle is? Oh yeah, I just went down there, it's aisle 3. That's a short contact. But that kind of interaction could be, man, I ain't got no time for you. Next thing you know, now you got a big scuffle, and now the manager is calling the police on you because you didn't do that the right way. Right. That's why we want to study being social. How do you interact with these things? We see it all the time when we see these interactions where something happens to an African American with the police. Maybe they get shot. Maybe they get locked up. Sometimes, and we see it. Hey, that cop just pulled on him real quick, shot him in the back. Sometimes you see where, man, I ain't got to tell you nothing. Well, according to the law, maybe you don't. But maybe wisdom in that social interaction would have been better if you say, officer, I was just getting ready to go to the store. Instead of trying to show how bad you are, sometimes wisdom says, I don't need to tell him I'm a legal citizen. Maybe I just need to shut my mouth, tell him I'm just going to the store so he'll leave me alone and I can go on about my business so I don't get shot. Right. And these are the social interactions that we're looking at. But we find them in the Bible because the scriptures tell us there's nothing new under the sun. So everything we see today, we look at CNN and Fox News and on YouTube and in social media where people are posting videos and doing all this, there's nothing new. They're just doing it in a quote-unquote modern time. And we'll talk about that. So we're going to talk about analyzing the short contacts between anonymous individuals. We'll also study the global social process. Now, I know that sounds fancy. It sounds like me in college. Global social process is how the nations, when we talk about it from the Bible, how the nations dealt with each other. Because the globe is talking about the nations, right? That's talking about the planet. So it's all the nations on the planet. The global social process is only how the nations dealt with each other and the processes they did. Because even Israel dealt with other nations. Sometimes it was, the process was going to war. Sometimes it was David making an agreement with Hiram and Tyre to get lumber so he could build the temple. That's all part of the social process. Some was good, some was bad. Yes, sir.
That was global social
process. It's just, and a process is just the way things are done.
Come on.
Your process of writing on the pad is holding your pen a certain way and writing. That's your process. Your process for studying is to have a quiet room. Some people like to put a little music on. That's your process for how you study. You see, your process for tying your shoes. It's very simple, so don't get caught up in words. You know, if you know them, fine. If you don't, just educate yourself. We spend all this money on these $1,000 phones, and that ain't the service. So we might as well utilize them to enhance ourselves and make ourselves wiser, more knowledgeable. Now, we're also going to look at a little bit of psychology. Okay? Now, psychology. The mental characteristics or attitude of a person or group. The mental characteristics or attitude of a person or a group. That goes back to, for example, when I was a child and I did something, maybe I dropped a glass and broke it. My mother told me, don't go get them glasses out the dishwasher because they're really hot right now. Let it cool and then you can do that. And then I picked the glass up after she told me not to. It was hot, I dropped it. And so then my mother or my father might have said, man, what were you thinking? What was in your head? See, and that's what it's talking about, the mental characteristics or attitude. What was wrong with you? What were you thinking when you did that? Now when I say it in that example, that's like anger or surprise, but sometimes you might say, man, I wonder what that brother was thinking when he did that. Right. You see a story on the news, and you think, what was that sister thinking about when she said that to that police officer, knowing darn well they're going to hem her up, jam her up, and throw her to the ground. See, that's the mental process. What was that person thinking? Their mental characteristics or attitude of a person or a group. It also means, another definition, the mental and emotional factors governing a situation or activity. That's part of psychology, is studying the mental and emotional factors governing a situation or activity. And the reason that's important is somebody does something, you hear about it all the time, where somebody shoots someone. And they'll say, man, he was cheating on my wife. He was cheating on me with my wife. And so you think about the psychology of it. What were his mental and emotional factors in him grabbing that gun and going to shoot the dude and shoot the wife? Or my wife came home and I thought everything was good. She threatened to divorce me and take the kids. Because there have been a few things in the last month, a couple months, where like the husband, they found folks in the house and the husband, he shot the wife and the kids and then shot himself. Right. They bring psychologists in to try and figure out. That's why when you see these stories, you'll see they talk about, like the guy goes in and shoots up people. They look on did they send out an email? Some of them send out a thing that I'm going to blow the folks, I'm going to shoot folks. And they'll look and say, well, he sent out an email to all these people. You going to say something?
Yeah, it's even like, not to bring up no old wounds, but the cat that shot Nipsey Hussle, the first place they brought him was to a mental facility.
Exactly.
To figure out his psychology, what was going on in his head, what was he thinking, is he mental?
They wanted to know the mental and emotional factors that governed him shooting Nipsey Hussle.
Forensic psychology.
Now sometimes that's forensic psychology. Now sometimes it's just as simple as, man, that fool owed me some money. But that's the answer. That's the mental or emotional factor that, man, he stepped on my shoes and he disrespected me.
Yeah, he talked to me. He talked to me in a weird way. He disrespected me.
He was looking at my lady. I was upset. Well, that's the emotional factor governing a situation. So it's not complicated. Don't think it's complicated. We're going to make it simple. But we're going to go into the scriptures here. And that's why I'm breaking this down, because once I start going into it, we're going to go into it. We're going to break down the emotional, the mental characteristics, how they dealt with one another socially. So we can see some good and some bad, and some negative things that take place. So, we're going to start, and today's class is about the birth of Samuel, the prophet. That's what we're going to start, is with Samuel. And we're going to start at 1 Samuel 1 and 1. Because that's where Samuel, a prophet in the scriptures, and a very powerful dude. He was very righteous with the Most High. But his righteousness and his path was set before him before he was even born. And we're going to go into this right now. Brother, if you got it, go ahead and read it for me.
1 Samuel chapter 1, verse 1. Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim, of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Jehu, the son of Zaphu, and Ephratite.
Very good. Now, first of all, let's get one thing clear. He was an Ephrathite. Now that's like saying I'm a San Antonian, because I live in San Antonio. We're Texans. We live in a region of Texas, and so we're known as Texans. Okay, so the Ephrathites were people, and that's why even in the beginning of that it said he lived at Mount Ephraim. He was in an area of land that was given to the tribe of Ephraim. Okay, now keep in mind, he was not an Ephraimite. He was not of the tribe of Ephraim. It's personally, I don't find it to be that important in terms of, well, what tribe was his brother? He was an Israelite. That's what we need to know. But it is important for clarity, because I'm teaching. We want to make sure everyone is clear on this. When you go to, when you go and study it, you find that he was a Levite. He was of the tribe of Levi, and that'll come into play as we read about Samuel. But he was of the tribe of Levi, living. Because remember that when the Most High had Moses distribute the lands, Moses told Joshua to distribute the lands. When the land was given to the 12 tribes, each tribe had their own land except for Levi. And the tribe of Levi was amongst all the tribes. Okay, so let's just make sure that's clear. So when it says he's an Ephrathite, it's not that he's of the tribe of Ephraim, it's that he was living in the land of Ephraim. Just like you're a Texan, because you live in the land of Texas.
Right.
Or wherever else you might live.
Place of residence.
Exactly, his place of residence. Go ahead and keep reading, brother. So now so the father's name, the man's name was Elkanah. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And he had 2 wives.
And Elkanah had 2 wives. Go ahead.
The name of the one was Hannah.
The name of the first one was Hannah, which now, Hannah, just so we can, little side note, means favor or grace. Okay, and that'll kind of come in later, but I like to put those little things out there. It's kind of nice when you start to see about her. She's very vital to this story and to the birth of Samuel. Go ahead, brother. So the first one was Hannah. Go ahead.
And the name of the other, Penina.
Penina. Exactly. Now, Penina, that's good. Penina means pearl. Okay? So a lot of names we use today were translated. You find people who have names didn't know that, but it's pearl, just so that you know. Just a little side note. Go ahead and read.
And Penina had children.
So Penina had children. Go ahead.
But Hannah had no children.
And Hannah did not have any children. Now, keep in mind, this is important for the story, and we'll read more about it, but keep in mind that at this time, they didn't believe like Western society believes. Okay? Obviously, one of the functions of women is to have children. Now, I said one of the functions. I don't want folks to get all riled up about what women's supposed to do and what women ain't supposed to do.
Right.
Men are not capable of having children. I know that Western medicine is trying to do something different, but the natural order of things from the time that the Most High created man and created woman, that women, that's one of their functions. Now, at this time, in this society that we're reading about, that was an honor for a woman to have children. They knew it was a blessing. They appreciated the fact that the Lord blessed them to have children, and they appreciated it, and they wanted that. So now we have Peninnah who has children, and Hannah who does not. Read on, verse 3. Oh yes, please.
And real quick, read verse 2 one more time.
Verse 2. And he had 2 wives.
Yeah, what?
2 wives.
Yeah, what?
2 wives.
Yeah, what?
2 wives.
Now, if we're dealing with Samuel and we're dealing with this righteous man, he's not going to come from an unrighteous birth.
That's right.
Okay, he's not going to come from a law, anything that's unlawful, and then be a representative of the Most High. Now, we can go. We're not going to make this a 2-wife class. We're not going to do that. But I wanted to, since we're here, and I know there's been questions online that's been asked. It's important to point out, and I know as we go through the story and we deal with Samuel, we're going to see his righteousness, the fact that he's an example, the fact that he was a priest, and that he wasn't going to come from anything that was unlawful, an unlawful bed, right, an unlawful marriage. Okay, so read it one more time.
Verse 2. And he had 2 wives.
Right.
The name of the one was Hannah.
Come on.
And the name of the other Peninnah.
Now, if that was unlawful for him to do, and we always do it with the scripture in Deuteronomy, it would say that he was a wicked man, stone him, kill him, right? It would give us the consequence. There's no. It's letting you know here. This is what he was doing. This is how he lived his life, but it was according to the law. Okay, go ahead.
And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children.
All right. So now we know where we are. This man had 2 wives. One has children. One does not. Read verse 3.
And this man went up out of his city yearly to worship and to sacrifice unto the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And he had 2 sons.
Read that again.
And the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priest of the Lord, were there.
Now, at this time, this was not long after Moses had passed and Joshua took the children of Israel into the land of Israel. This was just a couple hundred years after. Okay, so there was no temple yet. The Ark of the Covenant was still in the tabernacle, which was basically a huge pavilion, a giant tent, for lack of a better term. Mm-hmm. It was, now it wasn't like Ringling Brothers or the circus. Right, right. Very laid out, and we don't even have time to go into it because it would take us an hour at least to describe the detail of this gold and the best. I mean, people, when they built the tabernacle with Moses, the Most High gave him specific guidance on how he wanted built, and the people were almost fighting each other to be the ones to build the curtains and build all the different. They had the finest crafts people, men and women. Don't think the women weren't there putting the curtains. They had the best leathers, the best skins, and they had the best of everything to put the tabernacle. So it wasn't just this tent like you see the circus is coming to town.
Right, right.
But for lack of a better term, I just want to make sure you understand it was a giant, huge pavilion.
Yeah, no, and we've been going over the Sabbath reading recently. What was it, 3 weeks ago? Where they went over how the willingness for them to want to build the temple, that Moses, and it went through all the details and all the specifications, and this couldn't be out of place, and this had to be this long, and it had to be this color, exactly, and it had to be like this, and laid out, overlaid with gold, and so y'all know the detail of the temple, like what he's saying. So it wasn't, yeah, I like that. It wasn't a tent like Ringling Brothers and Marvin and Bailey. It wasn't some tent you propped up at the flea market. Right. This was set up in a way where, and the Most High commanded it to be built in a way that it represented our people. It represented Him. It had prestige. Okay. And it was in the city or the town, right outside the town of Shiloh, which was in the land of Ephraim. But now, so what we're finding out is that the man Elkanah, he would take his family every year to go worship and sacrifice to the Most High, according to the law. Right. So they didn't just go to their local place. This was when they made a pilgrimage to go and make sure they bring their sacrifice. Now, the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there. At this point, Eli was the high priest. Okay, just like we know that Aaron, brother of Moses, was the first high priest. And from him, the lineage comes down. Eli was the high priest this year, and he was not there at this moment, but his sons Hophni and Phinehas were there when Elkanah came to the temple, or to the tabernacle, excuse me.
Go ahead and read verse 4.
And when the time was that Elkanah offered, he gave to Peninnah his wife, and to all her sons and her daughters portions.
Now, when you gave, there were 3 types of, I don't want to get too far into it. There were different types of offerings. Just like here, you'll have the priest offering, you'll have your tithes, you'll have, and so, alms. And so, when he gave an offering, there's the burnt offering, that got burned up. They put that on the thing, and it just got burnt because that was going straight to the Most High. Okay? Then there was the sin offering, but you also had the, I forget that, it just escaped my head. But there was another offering, and what you did was, you had your animal, like you had your cow, your cattle, and you would kill it, you would sacrifice it, you would take the innards, which are all the guts, the intestines, and all that stuff they say is a delicacy, the chitlins, the tripe, the tongue, the brain, what else are they doing? Tripas, the liver, beef liver, the heart, beef heart, all those parts that you go down to the grocery store and they tell me, oh, this is good eating right here. Everybody. Because look, tripas, eat some menudo and see if you don't have that. It's tripe.
Right, or langua's
tongue. You got beef heart, beef liver.
Yeah.
Our folks eating chitlins.
Right.
So all of that stuff. All the intestines, the internal organs, were taken out and burnt in fire because the Most High said the blood is mine. So that was burnt, and he said it was a sweet savor for him. So that would burn. I don't know about y'all. I've never smelled or tasted burnt, but I've tasted in my youth. I tasted chitlins. I didn't like the smell of them. Right. So I couldn't imagine, and that was when they were boiled, supposedly boiled right. So I couldn't imagine what they smelled like if they were burnt on fire. But you would take all of that, they would burn that. Then from the meat, you would take the shoulder, which was the top portion.
Isn't that the heave offering?
No, there's the heave offering.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
But what you would do is you would take the shoulder, which was the tender part of the meat, and you would give that to the Levites. That was the top portion. You would give that, and you would also give. There was the shoulder, and there was another piece you give, but the shoulder was the main thing you give. But then the rest of the cattle, the rest of that cow, you eat that. You would have a feast because you've given your offering to the Most High, and so you feast. That's why they went. He took his whole family, and so it said when he gave his offering, so what he did was he gave the part to the Levites. There were certain people at the temple who was all their job to do all day was to take the offering of all those intestines and burn it and send up prayers. That was their daily job. So you take that first. When you went out and cleaned and what they call dressing an animal, that's what hunters do. When you kill the animal, you dress it, which means you got to skin it, take the skin off it. You got to cut it into pieces, get rid of the bad, or get rid of all the internal organs. They would give that to the porters at the tabernacle, who would go ahead and burn it and send up prayers on your behalf for you and your family. Then you would take the shoulder, you would cut, because you're going to have a big old, y'all seen a side of beef, like in Rocky when he's in there punching them. You can't eat all that. You got to cut it, break it down. Right. So he would break it down. You take the shoulder, which was a good roast, give it to the Levites, and that's how they ate. That was their pay. That was one of the ways you paid them because all they do all day is pray on your behalf. They don't have time to be out in the fields or doing that. So you would give them their offering, and then the rest of it you would eat as a celebration. And so he gave his wife. Now notice this man's a righteous man. It didn't say he ate for himself. Right. He gave Peninnah, his wife, and her children, gave them enough. Now you go give that to the children. And it was all cooked. Now read on. So he gave her portions.
That's the peace offering.
Peace, that's what it was. Peace offering. Thank you. The word just ran away from me as soon as I wanted to bring it up. Yeah. That's exactly what it was.
That's the peace offering. Leviticus 7 and 30 down.
So you're making peace with the Most High.
Right.
Okay. So you bring in the peace offering, and so he gave Peninnah, his wife, and her sons and daughters their portion. Gave them their meat. But check this out.
Verse 5. But unto Hannah he gave a worthy portion.
A what?
A worthy portion.
Now, when you look that up, There are a couple of different definitions I found, or explanations online I found about that. One of them was just an extra special portion. The other one was a double portion. Now, obviously, you do the peace offering, so you've got all this meat because you've made peace with the Most High. Okay. Because remember, this is an annual, so this is like your annual atonement with the Most High.
Right, right.
So now you go party, you're going to celebrate and enjoy it. Just like we hear the music come through the wall now. We go party. And so he gave enough for Peninnah, his wife, and her sons and daughters. But then to Hannah, who's only by herself, remember she doesn't have any children, he gave Hannah what?
A worthy portion.
He gave her a worthy portion. Why? Read.
For he loved Hannah.
For he loved Hannah. So Hannah was his favorite. Now that doesn't mean that he didn't love, because the way the Bible's written, I don't want y'all to get all technical. That doesn't mean he didn't love Peninnah and her children.
Right.
It's just that Hannah was his boo. He loved Hannah. She was his favorite. He loved her.
Just like how the Most High has favorite plant, right? Favorite bird, favorite people.
Yes.
Right? Israel. Favorite fruit, the pomegranate. It's no different.
That doesn't mean the Most High doesn't like oranges.
Right.
It's just pomegranate what he loves.
That's what he loves. If you got more than one kid, I got a favorite kid. I got a favorite kid. Just
as we can have our favorites. You might love tomatoes more than squash.
Right.
Doesn't mean you don't like squash. Just means you like tomatoes more.
Right.
And that's okay. So that's what was going on with Hannah. Now read on.
But the Lord had shut up her womb.
But the Lord had shut up her womb, so she didn't have any children. Read on.
And her adversary also provoked her sore.
Now, if you see, it said her what?
Adversary.
Read.
Also provoked her sore.
For adversary provoked her sore. You have a question?
Say what I'm talking about.
Does that tie in, like, because I know you're saying something about her name. The meaning of her name. It says, I was looking and it says favor and grace.
Yes, that's exactly ties into her name. If the brother's asking, does it tie into her name? And it absolutely does. That's why I pointed that out, because Elkanah loved Hannah. She was his favorite. But there's more to her name than that. And we're gonna get to it. That's a good point though, but there's more to it. It goes even deeper. Hannah, that's why I said at the beginning, she plays into this story very importantly. Okay? So now it said her adversary provoked her. Who was her adversary? Peninnah. Peninnah was the one called an adversary. Okay? And it said, and now, the definition for an adversary, a person's opponent in a contest, conflict, or dispute. An adversary is, and you can look at it, we've all had adversaries, whether it was we were playing sports or whether we were in some kind of team event, but your adversary, or whether you was getting ready to square up on somebody and kick up some dust, because you got to get them knuckles on. Okay? But an adversary is a person's opponent in a contest, conflict, or dispute.
You know, the best way to look at it is when you deal with Abraham and Sarah.
Absolutely.
And Sarah couldn't have kids, right? So what did she do? She gave him the handmaiden. She gave him Hagar. But Hagar became the adversary,
right? Because
now what were they doing? They're competing now. They're doing all these different things. Remember when they what was it with the herb?
Oh yeah, with the what's that plan?
Yeah, to try to get her pregnant. Right. Yeah, it's like they were doing things. The mandrake, right. It's like, I'm doing this because I'm trying to have all his kids. I'm trying to bring forth his seed. So, it wasn't that it was there's a negative connotation on that word, adversary, that we look at it all the time, but they were competing for something righteous.
Right.
Who's going to bring forth this man's seed and lineage? There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Used in the right way.
Right.
Because, the only reason I say that is in this story, and we'll read that scripture again. Read verse 6 again.
Verse 6. And her adversary also provoked her sore.
Provoked her. Right, so we know that's a negative. If I provoke you, that's like, the little like your sibling. Don't touch me. Poking. Stop touching me. Or even worse, don't touch me. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. You see, that's provoking. So then when you get mad and haul off and hit me, as little kids, Mom, he hit me. provoking him. You see, and that's when it says it she provoked her sore. She was being very adversarial. She was being controversial. She was coming from a negative place.
I got the kids you don't.
I got kids you don't. You can't have kids. And you know the way she do it? And see now, and I'm going to show you. Remember I said earlier, the scriptures talk about there's nothing new under the sun. So in this day and age, it's not like, oh, I have kids and you don't. You know what it is? It's, oh, today little Timmy, oh my gosh, he scored 4 goals at soccer. Knowing darn well you ain't got no kids. And you want kids.
Right.
You see,
right.
That's how they do. Oh, you know, John, he got his, you know, he scored the A on the test today, knowing you don't have kids.
Right. They rub it in your face.
Rub it in your face. But they don't, in a subtle way, you know, they rub it in your face.
Like, look at what my kids are doing, even though you ain't got none.
Right.
Yeah.
Without saying it, but doing, you know, promoting their children. Yes, brother.
Or like saying things, oh, it's such a joy to have kids.
Yes.
You know, I'm so thankful that God's blessed me with kids.
Right. When people say that, oh, it's so good to have kids. I'm so blessed. The Lord has just blessed my household. Knowing they're talking to someone who doesn't have kids, and that's a sore spot with them. See, so that's how underhand, and see, that's where you see it today's world, but you see this is what was happening here. Okay, this is what was happening here. Now, the thing is, Elkanah was a righteous man. He loved Hannah, and Peninnah didn't realize what was that doing to her husband. How did he feel about that? Just a little side note. So we got to look at all these things when we're out here operating and dealing in the world, and realize when the Most High says, "Come out of her, my people," it ain't just about stop shooting heroin up your veins. That's an obvious one. But it's also stop provoking your brothers and your sisters. Take into consideration when doing things like, you know, there was for example, I'll use myself as a great example. Many years ago, this was probably 94, 95. I grew up in a house, I had both my parents. I was very fortunate. Now, they raised me and my brothers and sisters, my brother and my sisters, that we're very blessed, but you're not better than anybody else. But they were there, they were involved in my life, and I did a lot of wonderful things with them. We weren't rich, but we made it happen. I had a lot of rich experiences, and I was with a couple brothers, and all the time I talk about, man, this reminds me when my father did this, and this reminds me my father did that. And one day, one brother came, pulled me to the side and said, you know what, I know you ain't doing this on purpose, brother, but sometimes you drive me crazy. And I was, brother, what? I don't know what you're talking about. And he said, I grew up in a house, I was the oldest of 8. I had 8 younger brothers and sisters, and it was just my mom. I don't even know who my daddy is. And every time you talk about how great your dad was, and he took you fishing, he took you camping, and all this, it really, I was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. It was a sore spot with him. And yes, it's something he has to deal with, but as a loving brother, you know, and I was like, okay, now, and so I said to myself, you know what, I need to be more aware because I'm doing something unconsciously. And it wasn't malicious. It wasn't like Peninnah being vicious. She's being mean on purpose. But we can do things sometimes without realizing it if we don't take a step back and say, okay, let me check myself and see. And it doesn't mean I was doing it on purpose. I was an evil, wicked brother, but it was something that I wasn't aware of because I was so busy trying to share my experience instead of trying to take into consideration, because there is my experience to share, but there's also your experience to receive it, what I'm sharing. So it's a matter of being aware of that and conscious of ourselves sometimes. That's just another little side piece that kind of, I'm glad, you know, we got this going on like this. Now let's get back to it. So now we know Peninnah was antagonizing, provoking Hannah. So go ahead and read on, and read verse 6 again.
Verse 6. This is 1 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 6. And her adversary also provoked her sore, for to make her fret, because the Lord has shut up her womb.
Now check this out. Adversary. We already read that. A person's opponent in a contest, conflict, or dispute. Now check out provoke. Provoke. Stimulate a strong or unwelcome reaction or emotion in someone. Deliberately make someone annoyed or angry. Okay? So, again, to stimulate a strong or unwelcome reaction or emotion in someone.
Come.
Deliberately, not on accident, deliberately make someone annoyed or angry. So Penaniah was poking at her. Like when someone poke at you, and it is, you be like, you better quit. Poke at you, stop. And she was poking at her, not physically, but emotionally. She knew what she was doing. Sometimes we call it trifling.
Right.
Sometimes we call it underhanded, dirty, no good, rotten. But she was doing that on purpose to provoke her because she said, I've got the children, you don't. Now go ahead, read on, verse 7.
Verse 7. And as he did so year by year.
So as Elkanah went back to Shiloh year by year to give his offering, go ahead.
When she went up to the house of the Lord, so she provoked her.
So every single year, because now keep in mind, back in these times, Elkanah had land. They weren't sleeping up in the same tent. Hannah had her tent. Peninnah had her tent with her children. But when they went up every year by year, Peninnah provoked Hannah year by year, every year, the same thing. Go ahead.
Therefore she wept and did not eat.
So Hannah wept and didn't eat. Now remember, this was a feast. Because it said, we read, she got the good portion.
Right.
She got the good steak. She got the big piece of chicken. But she didn't eat because it was, you know what, I'm so upset I can't eat.
Come.
I'm so frustrated and angry and hurt, I can't eat. Read on.
Then said Elkanah, her husband, to her, Hannah, why weepest thou?
Why are you crying, baby? Read.
And why eatest thou not? And why is thy heart grieved?
Now, Elkanah said to his wife Hannah, Hannah, why aren't you eating? Why are you upset? Why are you crying? Go ahead.
Am not I better to thee than 10 sons?
Aren't I good to you? Don't I treat you right? I don't sweat you about not having children. I never give you a hard time. I love you, baby. Don't you know? Being with me, isn't that good enough? We have a wonderful life together. Why are you crying and worried about all that? Why are you worried about what this other woman's saying? Sound familiar? Why are you worried about what the other heifers is saying out there? And the reason I say heifers because if they're provoking on purpose, that's a heifer. That's not a sister.
Nope.
That's not someone who's looking out for your good. They messing with you on purpose. And in today's world, we see it whether it's the weight. You know, oh girl, you look good for your size. You know how they do that? They be talking. You know what I'm talking about in today's world. And there are plenty of examples. It's like, baby, why are you crying? Why aren't you eating? This is a feast to the Most High. Isn't it good enough to be with me? Isn't that better than having 10 sons? Read on.
Verse 9. So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk.
So she stayed for the feast. She didn't eat though. But after they had done all that, so everybody ate, they got their fill, now they chilling, they probably went off to bed. But check out what she did.
Now Eli, the priest, sat upon a seat by a post of the temple of the Lord.
So Eli is sitting in here. He's sitting by a post. He's sitting by one of the supports of the tabernacle. Go ahead.
And she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore.
So she went in there. She's praying. She's crying, heavy crying. Go ahead.
And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thy handmaid.
Hold on one second. Go back and read 10 again. I want to bring this out.
Verse 10. And she was in bitterness of soul.
She was in bitterness of soul. Bitterness. Anger and disappointment at being treated unfairly. Also resentment. So she's resentful because here it is, she ain't got no children. She's resentful. She's bitter. She's angry and disappointed at being treated unfairly. Okay? Now, one thing about this, I wanted to bring this. In our times, sometimes we need to not be quick to judge a person. She should have listened to her husband when he said, listen, why aren't you eating? This is a joyous occasion. Isn't it good enough just to be with me, baby?
Don't look at her.
Don't look at her. Don't worry about what she's doing. She should have listened to him. However, she didn't. But instead of going out saying, I'm going to get that so-and-so and go out and try and hurt or kill, because that's what we do in this day and age. You see it where, oh, well, I'm mad, so I'm going to go get her.
Yep.
She didn't do that. She turned to the Most High. She went to the tabernacle. She went to go pray. So she didn't go and say, I'm going to get her and try and kill her, try and hurt her, try and hurt one of her children. But we need to sometimes be conscious of people, because people go through things. We go through stuff. We have trials and tribulations in life, and you don't always know what somebody else is going through, the stress they're under. We're all under stress, but we all deal with it differently. So sometimes we need to back off and hear a person out. Sometimes we need to give them just a little bit of room, as long as they're dealing right. Let's make sure we have that very clear. Because sometimes a person can be angry and you just need to give them 5 minutes. You know, sometimes we get mad, it's like, man, I just don't want to talk about it right now. I will talk about it, but just right now, I just need to I need to be by myself just to deal with it. No. And as long as you're not doing anything negative, sometimes we need to allow that. We need to consider, okay, because here, yes, Hannah should have listened to her husband, but in dealing with it, it was her emotions were so riled up. Because this has been going on for, it said, year after year. So she was fed up with it. But her way of dealing with it was righteous. She said, you know what, I'm at my wit's end. I can't take no more of this. But she went to the Most High. So be aware when we're dealing with each other and dealing with people. Sometimes we need to, let me evaluate, okay, maybe that person just needs a minute. Because sometimes you can make it worse.
Yeah.
You trying to push somebody to tell you or push somebody to calm down. I'm not calm down right now. I'm upset. And you just making it worse.
God.
Right?
God,
yeah, please.
Just going off of the definition you dropped earlier about psychology, now we get to see the psychology of this woman. Who is it? Penaniah?
Oh, right.
We see her psychology. What did she do? She went to the Most High. She didn't.
It's Hannah.
Excuse me, Hannah. Right. Yeah, Hannah. We see Hannah's psychology, because it says the mental characteristics or attitude of a person or group, the mental and emotional factors governing a situation or activity. So now we're seeing, what was her psychology? What was it? What was her
psychological state?
What was it based on? Psychological state. Where was it based? Was it really based in her own emotion? Or was it based on the Most High and what He wanted?
God.
See, and that's her desire to fulfill that.
And her desire to fulfill that. So I like it because it's really showing the characteristics, the psychology of the people that we're reading about.
God.
So I like the fact that he gave that definition, and now we're actually putting that word. This is how you put the word into play and define it. Right. If you don't know what it is, now you're seeing the word in action. All right?
God. No, that was good. Why? Tell them where you are.
Come on, this is 1 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 10.
All right. So now read verse 10 again.
Verse 10. And she was in bitterness of soul and prayed unto the Lord and wept sore.
So it was more than she could handle, but she went to go pray to the Most High on it, as we're supposed to do. So we know that her heart was in a good place and her desire was sincere. Okay? Her desire was sincere in that. Go ahead.
Verse 11.
Yep.
And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the afflictions of thy handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thy handmaid, but will give unto thy handmaid a man-child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head.
Now, first of all, she made a vow. She said, if you would give me a son, a man-child, Lord, if you give me a son, then bless me with a son. I will give him to the work, to your work.
Okay.
I will give him to dedicate his life to you. And not only that, so in case anybody missed it, when she said no razor shall come upon his head, she's saying from birth he will be a Nazarite.
So you mean to tell me she didn't ask for a son just so she could parade around in the other sister's face? You see, you got to see the mental.
Right.
She didn't ask for a son so she could say, well, see, I got one too.
Right.
I'm the head bitch.
Right.
She's like, listen, I want a son, but I'm gonna give him that. The level of humility is ridiculous, man. For her to say, look, I want a son, because all she's gonna really do is enjoy him until the age of what? 12, right? She's gonna have him until the age of 12, and then he's gone.
And we're gonna read about that. Now, as a side note, just so that you know, and we're not gonna go into it because that's a whole other class. There were many people that took certain vows of being a Nazarite. And you'll have to look that up, that's another class. There were people that took the vow. Generally, the vow was a certain period of time. Maybe a week, maybe a month, a couple of months, 6 months, maybe a year. There are only 3 that we have record of. Only 3 men took the vow for life. Samson, Samuel, and John the Baptist. Now, there may have been others. We don't have those records of them, though. So we go by what we have records of. Those are only 3 from birth. It just becomes important because if you notice the 3 of them, the Most High definitely dealt with them.
God, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They were very impactful in their lives.
Yes, sir.
Now, let's read on where we are.
Verse 12. And it came to pass, and she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli marked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart.
So, Eli watched her mouth as she was praying. Remember, she was crying, she's praying. It said Hannah spake in her heart.
Only her lips moved.
So, only her lips moved. Go ahead.
But her voice was not heard.
Just like sometimes you'll see people reading, and they're reading quietly, but their lips are going along.
Right.
So her lips are moving, but she's saying it in her head. She's praying in her heart, so it's quiet. There's no noise, but her lips are moving. And Eli sees this, and check out what he thinks. Read on.
Therefore, Eli thought she had been drunken.
He thought she was drunk. Now, tell you something. And the law, especially back in, you wasn't going up to the temple drunk. Drunk.
No.
You bet not.
Right.
The next thing you'll find is some stones. That was no joke. You get some stripes off of that. So check out what his reaction was.
Verse 14. And Eli said unto her, How long wilt thou be drunken?
How long you gonna be drunk? Because this was a time of celebration. But you didn't just get drunk with white girl wasted, as they call it. You didn't get white girl wasted when you dancing on the table, not knowing what you're doing. The next morning you wake up and you're like, oh, where am I? What did I do? What happened? They weren't getting drunk and taking clothes off and all that kind of crazy foolishness like they do today. Or you're getting sick, throwing up. Okay, so he was like, you could drink, you'd have your drink with the celebration, and that was that. I had enough.
Wine measurably drunk in season. Brings joyfulness and gladness.
Joyfulness and gladness. Not that when you're and all that other stuff. That's why you get a headache the next day. That tells you was out of order. You were doing too much. You was running too fast. You need to pump the brakes next time.
Right.
Okay. So Eli said to her, How long will you be drunken? Read.
Put away thy wine from thee.
You stop drinking so much, sister. Stop drinking so much. And check out what she said.
And Hannah answered and said, No, my Lord, I am a woman of a sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord.
So she said, she hadn't eaten. She hadn't eaten or had anything to drink. Right. She was pouring out her soul to the Most High.
She was in spirit.
She was in the zone, in the spirit. She's trying to do right because she's being overwhelmed by these feelings because she's been antagonized, because she's been provoked, and she's in bitterness. Read on.
Verse 16. Count not thy handmaid for a daughter of Baal.
See, now Belial is one of those other gods, the Philistines. That's Satan. Don't count me. Don't think I'm one of these heifers. I'm not one of these hoochie mamas.
Right.
I'm not a trick. I'm doing righteousness.
I'm not a thought.
Right. I'm not a thought. I'm not ratchet. I'm not a thought. Okay, that's the truth. That's what she's telling him. It's just that, remember, they use language. They just spoke differently back then. Yep. But that's what it is of today's terms. I'm not a trifling woman. Go ahead.
For out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto.
Out of the abundance, the great amount of my complaint, my problems, and my grief, have I come here to pray to the Most High. See, instead of I'm going to get mad, I'm going to get jealous, I'm going to get I'm gonna become violent or do something negative.
Just leave.
Instead of allowing myself to be drawn into negative, I came to the Most High to pray and try and stay in the path of righteousness and do right according to what the Most High wants me to do. Read on. Tell them where you are.
This is 1 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 18.
Read it.
And she said, let thy handmaid find grace in thy sight. So the woman went her way.
No, wait a second.
Oh, it's like 17. Verse 17.
Yeah.
Then Eli answered and said.
So now remember, Eli is the high priest of all the nation at this point. Okay, so he said, so she's having a conversation. That's like for a Catholic woman in this world to be speaking to the Pope. They have a conversation. This is the high priest of all Israel. It's not, see, nowadays, you can't talk to the president. We got Secret Service. We got these levels. You got to talk to some no name. She was talking to the top priest.
Right.
Okay, so what did he say?
It's like, then Eli answered and said, go in peace.
Go in peace. Why?
And the God of Israel grant thee thy petition that thou hast asked of him.
The Most High will answer your prayers. Go in peace. Read on.
And she said, let thy handmaid find grace in thy sight. So the woman went her way and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad.
Now wait a minute. He said, go in peace. The Lord's going to answer your prayers. And did she doubt? Did she say, nah, I don't know? She didn't go back to her husband and say, man, I don't know what this fool's talking about. I'm doubting. No. She said, okay. And she went in peace. All of that was gone. She stopped crying. It said her countenance was no more sad. She wasn't sad anymore because she believed. She had faith. She had faith. Okay? If we could all have half the faith of Hannah. And so, and for any of you out there who like to look at other people teaching other things, all them people that talk about women can't do this and women ain't that and women are down here. You know what? The Most High made women. The Most High gave Eve to Adam and said, this is your handmaiden. This is your helpmeet. Your helpmate. Your meat. It's not good that man should be alone.
Help like unto yourself.
Thank you.
So it was
out of your bones. Now I just want to bring that up so we can make sure that we have an understanding. Like I said, we're going to talk about what's good. We're going to talk about what wasn't so good or what's not so good. We want to relate that to what's happening today. So have an understanding. Here is not just this is an individual. This is one of the Lord's children. They talk about God's children. This is one of God's children who was being maliciously, being provoked, being teased, being taunted, being treated badly, and didn't retaliate, didn't get upset, didn't give up faith. In fact, locked in. She locked into the zone. She locked into the Spirit of the Most High and said, let me go pray on this. That was the first thing she did. She fasted. She fasted. She didn't eat.
Can I get one?
Please,
just on that? Go to James 4 and 6. One of our favorites. One of our favorite scriptures that we like to go to. But you got to see it. The level of humility, what the Most High will do for you. Read that. James 4 and 6.
James chapter 4 verse 6. But he giveth more grace.
Go ahead.
Wherefore he said, God resisted the proud.
He does what?
Resisted the proud.
Yeah, the Most High resisted that proud mentality, that proud psychology that you come with. Like, I'm holier than thou.
Right,
it's all about me. I know more. I'm not gonna listen to counsel. He said he does what?
Resisted the proud.
Come on.
But give it grace unto the humble.
He's gonna give grace to the humble man, to the humble woman, the one that receives counsel, that's willing to hear. That's what the Most High does.
And that's what Hannah was.
And that's what happened. She was willing to hear. She was willing to hear. But first and foremost, she was willing to handle her business in a godly manner. Right. She didn't get all emotional and then go to the Most High. Right. Like, I'm gonna be vindictive, I'm gonna be spiteful, I'm gonna backbite and murmur, right. And then I'm gonna go ask the Most High. You're a hypocrite.
Right.
She went and asked the Most High first and foremost. And then when a representation or representative, which is Eli of the Most High, she didn't disannul his counsel. She was like, wait a minute, this is the high priest. This brother got wisdom, he got knowledge. That's why the scriptures say, miss not the discourse of the elders.
Reverence the priest.
Reverence the priest.
Right.
So she was like, okay, wait a minute. Let me let me shed all the feelings that I'm rolling in, and let me just take the counsel and let me just go move on.
God.
So he said he resists the proud and give grace unto the humble. All right. So it goes right hand in hand, man. When we look at these stories, put yourself in the story, put yourself in the mind state, and really see, am I operating like, if you're a sister, are you operating like the sister in this story? Which one are you operating like? And how do you handle your issues, your bitterness, your anger, your emotions? How do you handle it?
Lack of understanding.
What do you do?
And look, now I'm gonna get real deep. You're right. You know what? If you're a brother, how you handle your emotions? Right? And that's the whole thing about righteousness. Remember, the Most High is not a respecter of persons. Righteous is righteous. Dealing right is dealing right, and He expects that of all of us. That's why I stopped and pointed out, because I know from years of experience that there are those out there who think that because a man can, it's lawful for a man to have more than one wife. It's lawful for a man to do this, and lawful for a man, and a woman's supposed to be, and so it's this idea that all women is barefoot and pregnant, and just con out of one, con ak, and that's not the whole purpose.
Like your doormats?
Yeah, like doormats, and that's not, you know what, they're capable, and that's all I'm saying, is that here's a sister who locked into the Spirit of the Most High and did what she was supposed to do according to the Spirit, just like a brother can lock into the Most High and do what he's supposed to do. Truth is truth. Righteousness is righteousness. That's what I'm saying. The Most High is balanced. He's not the author of confusion. Now, from there, we're going to read what Josephus has to say about this. Okay? Yeah. Now, we're going to read over what the same information we just read from verse 1. We're going to read the same story because Josephus, now for those who might not be familiar, Josephus was he was an Israelite. He was an Israelite general who lived during the time, he lived through the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Okay, the Roman general Vespasian and his son Titus. Now Titus took Josephus' army captive. And Josephus had a choice. He could either die or he could be brought in as a captive. And so he was brought in under what they would call house arrest as a captive, and he wrote, and that's where Josephus wrote the history as it was told, and then also what he saw. So he wrote the histories starting from Genesis of what had been taught up to his time. And he also wrote some more information about what he went through during his time at the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD. The book of Josephus does not replace the scriptures. I use it because we know that the scriptures were dealt with by many of the councils. Many of them were Catholic councils and in Europe. And there's a lot of information in the scriptures that were taken out that we don't have access to. And so sometimes the scriptures jump and there's information, and so it help us to get a clearer picture. If I were to cover half of this up, you wouldn't be able to see the whole picture of it. And so the Josephus helps us get some historical information to go along with the scriptures to enhance our understanding of what the scriptures are telling us.
Yeah, it's no different when we define words in the Zondervan.
Exactly.
The Zondervan is not the Bible, but it helps us to
have a better understanding
and enhance what we're reading and what we're going over.
Right. So don't want nobody tripping on that.
Yeah, we go to the Josephus a lot in here.
Okay.
They know.
Good.
It's good for those online to know,
absolutely
what we're reading in. Where we want to go.
So we're going to in the Josephus, Antiquity of the Jews, chapter 10. I'm sorry, book 5. Book 5, chapter 10, and we will start at section 3 first.
Book 5, chapter 10.
No, I'm sorry. We're starting section 2.
Section 2.
Section 2 first.
And the blue one, I got the blue one. It's page 149. He has a soft copy, so it's going to be different. There's different pages.
And I have page 122. They're just type. The type is different.
Yeah.
We're starting at section 2. We are going to read section 1, but we're going to go back to that because this is kind of important to start at section 2.
Okay, so this is book 5, chapter 10, section 2.
Yes.
I'm just going to give the title concerning the birth of Samuel and how he was foretold the calamity that befell the sons of Eli. Section 2.
I will first dispatch what I have to say about the prophet Samuel.
So this is Josephus talking. He's going to first talk about the prophet Samuel.
And after that, we'll proceed to speak of the sons of Eli and the miseries they brought on the whole people of the Hebrews.
Okay, and we're going to get into that. We'll come back to them, but they're not the point yet. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We don't want to read. You know, it's like when people talk about you got to go see the Marvel movies in a certain order.
Right.
You don't want to go to when you read a book. You don't want to read the last chapter first.
Right.
You know, no, don't play that movie. I'm halfway through. No, I got to see it from the beginning. So go ahead, brother. Read on.
Elkanah, a Levite, one of a middle condition among his fellow citizens.
So he was when Josephus says a middle condition. This is still Elkanah, which is Samuel's father. Remember, we're going to repeat what we read before, but it's going to give you a little more detail. So he was a middle. So he was a middleman. He wasn't a high priest. He wasn't on a high level, but he was just a regular dude. He was a good dude. Go ahead.
And one that dwelt at Ramathaim, a city of the tribe of Ephraim, married to 2 wives, Hannah and Peninnah. He had children by the latter
being Peninnah,
but he loved the other best.
See how it gives you a little bit different detail. That's why we read the Josephus, just to help us fill out the picture. He loved Hannah best. Go ahead.
Although she was barren.
Although she didn't have children. So that's another thing. Just because a woman doesn't have children don't mean she can't be loved.
Right.
Read on.
Now Elkanah came with his wives to the city Shiloh to sacrifice, for there it was that the tabernacle of the Most High was fixed, as we have formerly said.
So that's where the tabernacle was, and that was put there by Joshua. When Israel came into the land, they went and put it, and it was there in Shiloh until David wound up building the temple. I'm sorry, until David conquered Jerusalem and Solomon built the temple. I apologize. Let me make sure to correct that. Gotta get it right. Go ahead, brother.
Now when, after he had sacrificed, he distributed at the festival portions of the flesh to his wives and children. And when Hannah saw the other wives' children sitting around about their mother, she fell into tears and lamented herself on account of her barrenness and lonesomeness.
So she saw, because it was a festival. They had given their offering. Now it's a time the Most High has blessed us for another year. Now it's time to celebrate. So the other children are out there having a good time and partying and eating like kids do at a party. And she's sitting there by herself. So she's really feeling bad. And remember, we read that Peninnah had provoked her. Read on.
And suffering her grief to prevail over her husband's consolations to her.
See, her husband tried to console her. Isn't it better to be with me than 10 sons? Read.
To console her, she went to the tabernacle to beseech the Most High to give her seed, and to make her a mother, and to vow to consecrate the first son she will bear to the service of the Most High.
Right.
And this in such a way that his manner of living should not be like that of ordinary men.
Look at that. Said it shouldn't be like ordinary men. He ain't just going to be some cat. He's not going to be just another brother. He's going to be extraordinary. Because if you're not ordinary, either you suck or you're extraordinary. Because ordinary is right here. So either you ordinary, which is just a regular dude,
mediocre,
or you excel.
Yeah. You know what I like about
in this context.
You know what I'm not going to cut you off. Sorry.
No.
What I like about it is that she understood that if she did get this gift from the Most High, that it had to be put to a good use. It wasn't about her. It wasn't about what she wanted. She understood that the Most High, if he was going to bless her, she was barren. How many women are barren and they get a child? Or think about this. Let's reverse it. How many women have children or conceive and then what do? Abortion. After abortion.
Right.
After abortion, and then what happens? The Most High is like, nope, I'm shutting that womb up. And what do their whole life? They regret it.
Or they neglect. They have children and neglect them.
You see that?
And this is Hannah's like, if I have a child, I'm going to give him to the service of the Most High. He's going to honor the Most High his whole life. That's how grateful I will be. Okay? That's how grateful I will be. We're going to go more into her. We ain't done with her yet. Go ahead. Read
And
on.
as she continued at her prayers a long time, Eli, the high priest, for he sat there before the tabernacle, bid her to go away, thinking she had been disordered with wine.
See, being disordered, he thought she was drunk.
Right.
Not just that she had she was tipsy, being disordered, out of order. You know, being wild, getting up on the table. When they dancing on the bar,
Coyote ugly.
Coyote ugly, yep, doing twerking and doing all that kind of stuff with booty and all that kind of foolishness. Y'all know what I'm talking about, because he thought, oh, she moving her lips.
Yeah.
You know, what's she doing up in here? Especially up in the, first of all, you ain't supposed to be doing that at all, but especially in the temple.
Right.
Read on.
Nighttime.
But when she was said, she had drank water,
She drank water. I hadn't drunk anything but water.
but was in sorrow for want of children, and was beseeching the Most High for them. He bid her be of good cheer, and told her that the Most High would send her children.
Now, just read the first line of the next section.
So she came to her husband full of hope,
Yep, read.
and ate her meal with gladness.
So that's her faith. See, a lot of times we pray to the Most High. We pray and pray and pray and pray, and then you know what happens? You still doubt.
Yeah.
After you prayed. You know what? She prayed. Now, yes, Eli gave her an answer, but the whole point was, why are you going to the Most High and you say you believe in the Most High if you're not going to believe?
Come on.
If you are sincere, see, that's because there's doubt. And we all have it. We're all subject to it. But that's something that, and again, that's the psychology, our mental state. We have to stop and say, okay, I've got some things I got to clear out of my head first, and my desires. Am I praying for this for my own lust?
James.
Because
Yeah.
there's so many, and when I say lust, it ain't just about sexual, physical. It can be, Lord, I don't own a vehicle, and I've finally been able to get a job, or I've been able to, do some things, but I need to have a vehicle that would really help, Father, because the bus doesn't run the right way, or I can't get a ride. I need a vehicle. Then you get a situation where you have a vehicle, and somebody says, "Hey, you got a ride." Yeah, this old jalopy. This old banged up man. It ain't nothing. This old hoopty. It needs a paint job. It's old. It's got 78,000 miles on it. See, now you're being ungrateful. So were you really sincere when you prayed to the Lord about getting a vehicle? You see, and I'm just using that as a very clear, simple example. It happens all the time. Man, my feet are hurting, and I work this job where I'm on my feet all day.
Right.
I need some new shoes. But man, I really want the new Jordans. I really want the new Jordans. Instead of being happy that you have enough to go over to the discount place and get you some BOGO. To buy one, get one. That's what we need to really see, that she was sincere. So when Eli said, "Go in peace," she went and immediately she ate. Immediately she said, "Okay, it's time to eat. I'm good now. I'm done. I put it in the Most High's hands, and I believe in the Most High," and that was it.
She did that, like how the Christians be like, Jesus take the wheel,
Right.
forgetting that he always had it.
That was it.
You never had the wheel, and it's like, Jesus take the wheel. She literally was like, you know what? I'm not in control here.
Yeah.
Let the Most High's will be done.
The problem is, in this society, people say, "Jesus, take the wheel," and then they want to be backseat drivers. You can't do that.
Or you want to still hold the wheel.
You still hold on
You ever
to the
see
wheel.
that? What's that movie with Martin where he was doing he was in the car, man. It was the student driver. Right. It was two steering wheels. Like, no, go this way. No, go this way. No, go this way. And, like, you both can't drive. You can't ask the Most High to drive, but then you want to control everything.
Right.
That's one of our problems. You ask. That's why the scriptures say when you doubt, it's sin.
Right. Exactly.
Because now you're going off of still your own mind. You're going off of still what? Your emotions, your own logic, what you want to happen, what you feel like should happen. She was like, "Listen, Most High was gonna give me kids." Eli was like, "Con, you gonna get them?" She was like, "You know what? I'm happy.
Right.
I'm happy even if it don't happen."
Right. Now we're gonna come back to that.
Okay.
Now we're gonna go. We can put that to the side for a little bit. We're gonna go back to Samuel. 1 Samuel, chapter 1. We're gonna read verse 19. We're gonna finish that. We're gonna read some more down a little bit.
1 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 19. And they rose up in the morning early and worshiped before the Lord, and returned and came to their house to Ramah.
So they got up in the morning, set up some prayers, thanked the Most High, and they gone. The festival's over. They went back home.
And Elkanah knew Hannah, his wife.
So they knew each other. They slept together.
And the Lord remembered her.
The Most High remembered her, and what happened?
Wherefore it came to pass, when the time was come about after Hannah had conceived, that she bare a son.
So she did. The Most High blessed her. She bare a son. Check this out.
And called his name Samuel, saying, because I have asked him of the Lord.
Because I've asked him of the Lord. And so the Most High blessed her, and she named him Samuel. Go ahead.
And the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer unto the Lord the yearly sacrifice and his vow.
So now a year has gone. So now they're going, it's time to go right back up. Because remember we read in the beginning, it said he went yearly. So now it's time to go back to sacrifice.
Can I jump back to verse 19?
Yes.
Read that real quick.
Verse 19. And they rose up in the morning early and worshiped before the Lord.
Come on.
And returned and came to the house to Ramah.
Come on.
And Elkanah knew Hannah, his wife.
Right, so he lay with her. Right? We know that's what the scriptures is telling us. Read.
And the Lord remembered her.
What did he remember about her? It wasn't the way he just her beauty.
Yeah, I remember that. You're right.
Had her from back. Right. What did he remember about her? It was the characteristics. It was her character. Right. Now, does not the Most High remember all? So when you're out of order, brothers, sisters, you remember that too. So that when you get spanked or not getting the blessing you think you should be getting, the Most High is remembering the disgruntled attitude, pride, hate, anger. He's remembering all that.
Right.
But he remembers that, remember, he gives grace unto the humble. He resisteth the proud. So he remember, like, man, this thing was prideful the other day. Right. I'm resisting you. I'm rejecting. But the humble, he remembers them too. I'm going to give them what they want. Right. The humbles, it says their prayers pierce the clouds. So he's going to remember that. Just like how he remembered just like how he remembered Hannah, he remembered her for the humility and the character that she portrayed.
Right.
Y'all see that? Go ahead.
All right, jump back. Now let's jump down to, go ahead and read 21 again.
21. And the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer unto the Lord the yearly sacrifice and his vow.
So he was going back up to offer the sacrifice like he did every year.
But when Hannah went not up,
Hannah did not go. Read.
For she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then I will bring him.
So she said, I'm not going back until the child is old enough to make the journey, and this is why. Read.
That he may appear before the Lord, and there abide forever.
So I'm not going to go up there again until I can bring Samuel, our son, and give him to the service of the Most High. So now this shows you she had every intention of keeping her word. She was so serious about it. She said, I'm not going back to the tabernacle to face the Most High at the tabernacle until my part of the deal. I asked the Most High, I made a vow, I made a contract. See, nowadays you gotta have a lawyer and a notary public, and you gotta have all this stuff to get it signed and sealed and triplicate and all this, the official raised seal of the state of Texas and all this other stuff. Or your license has to have the hologram.
Right.
That's what they have. You know what? Back here, she prayed to the Most High and promised that if she had a son, she would make sure that he was going to be given to the service of the Most High. She said the Most High did his part. He came through on his part of the bargain. I'm not going to see him until, just like in the movie, they say, you got my money? No, I ain't got your money. Well, then why you show up here? If you ain't got my money, don't show up here. Don't show your face here again until you get my money. You see, right? So she said, I'm not going to show my face to the Most High until the son is ready and I can give my offering like I promised. Go ahead. Oh, you got something?
Ecclesiastes 5. I'm just throwing the precepts in. Ecclesiastes 5 and verse 1. Ecclesiastes 5 and 1.
Ecclesiastes in the Bible.
Ecclesiastes in the Bible 5 and verse 1. I mean, it goes right along with what the brother's bringing out.
Right.
Go ahead, read that real quick.
Ecclesiastes chapter 5 verse 1.
Come on.
Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of God.
Right. So, like we go to Ecclesiastes, the 2nd chapter. Prepare thy soul when you come to serve the Most High. Prepare your soul for temptation. It's saying the same thing. set your mind right.
Yeah.
Like when Hannah was praying to the Most High, she knew she couldn't come before him drunken and out of order. She had to have her mind right. Go ahead.
And be more ready to hear.
Be what? Be what?
More ready to hear.
Go ahead.
Than to give the sacrifice of fools.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Read on.
For they consider not that they do evil.
Right, because when you start blabbing off that sacrifice of fools, you're just saying anything, just shooting things off, diarrhea at the mouth. Right. Oh Lord, if you give me a son, I'm gonna give him to you. And then when it's time, it's like, I don't want to do that.
Oh Lord, I hope you let me look. I hope I go to the casino. I can win on the slot machine.
Yeah.
No, darn well you ain't gonna give no money.
Nothing.
You know, I want to win the lottery. Why? So you can go out and buy a bunch of cars. You can wreck them because you're gonna be drunk. You know, drunk driving and acting a fool.
Or what do brothers do? They cheat on their woman, right? Out in the world, they cheat on their woman. She finds out, Lord, if you let her come back, I'll never do it again. 2 weeks later, he's over there back in the next shit. Or run around with this woman. Sacrifice of fools. Go ahead, read on.
Be not rash with thy mouth.
What?
Be not rash with thy mouth.
Come on.
And let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before
and
God.
This is what the Most High, when he said he remembered her, he was looking at these things. Right. He knew her heart. He knew that when she spoke, she was going to give up Samuel. But it's in us to do what? To say something and then not. When it says, when you vow a vow to the Lord, it's another scripture. When it says, when thou vowest a vow, defer not to pay. Right, defer not to pay.
See, that hits right on what she did.
Right.
Defer not to pay. See, so she's not gonna go until she can pay her vow.
And that's the one I wanted.
Yeah,
that's the one I wanted.
That's all right.
That's on point too.
That's on point.
Go ahead, finish it up so we can jump back.
Right.
For God is in heaven,
right,
and thou upon earth.
Yeah, man. Listen, the Most High is in the dimensions that you can't even understand.
And he's above us.
And he's above. The earth is his footstool. He's in the kingdom.
Yes, sir.
You sitting there uttering, "Oh God, this, I'll do this, and I'll do that," and you know damn well it's like the black man. They always want to pay everybody back during what? I'll get you back when I get my taxes. Right. Let me borrow it. I'll get you back. That's the black man's pay time.
Right.
I'll get you back when I get my taxes, and then you get your taxes. You don't ever see them. Right. So next year they need something.
Right.
But don't be hasty to utter anything with your mouth. Y'all get that? Let's jump back.
Go back. We're in 1 Samuel 1 and 23. So now Hannah said, I'm not going up till the child can be weaned. I'm going to take him to the temple and he'll be there forever. So she's going to keep her word. Go ahead.
And Elkanah, her husband, said unto her, do what seemeth thee good.
Now, check this out. Do what seemeth thee good. Read.
Tarry until thou have weaned him. Only the Lord established his word.
Now, check this out. He didn't say, nah, woman, you coming with me. You're going to do what I say. He said, you know what? You do what you feel is right. Because not only did he love her, he trusted her judgment. That's him trusting her judgment. Because remember, now, this is Elkanah, her husband. She's saying, I'm not going until Samuel can come. I can take Samuel to the tabernacle. So she's saying to her husband, I'm going to take our son and leave him up at the tabernacle. What kind of man is he? What kind of man is Elkanah? He's a righteous man. He didn't say, nah, you ain't taking my son.
Like, why would you pray the Most High for that without asking?
You ain't taking my son from me.
Right.
You ain't going to take my son from me. That's my son. He said, you do what you feel is best. Only the Most High can establish his word. I'm not getting in between you and the Most High. Because I'm righteous and I know it's a blessing. I loved you without the Son. I love you with the Son. I love our Son. But you keep your word to the Most High. That's how he deals. Now, going back real quick, just to show you.
That's cold.
Okay, just to show you sociology. The study of our behavior as social beings. So now we're studying the sociology of Elkanah and Hannah and Peninnah too. See, our behavior as social beings. So when I was saying about sociology, I told y'all it was going to come back around. We're studying that. We're studying how they interacted 4,000 years ago, almost 5,000 years ago. And you know what? It ain't much different than how we act today. This is the social interaction of a husband and his wife. And it's righteous. Right. It's righteous. Thank you. Okay? Just keep that in mind. Now let's read on down. So he said, you do what's right. Start 23 again.
Verse 23. And Elkanah, her husband, said unto her, do what seemeth thee good. Tarry until thou have weaned him.
Tarry, stay here, hang back. Lay back until you take care of your business. Till you weaned him. Go ahead.
Only the Lord established his word.
Read.
So the woman abode and gave her son suck until he was weaned, until she weaned him.
Right. Read on.
Verse 24. 1 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 24. And when she had weaned him, she took him up with her.
Now check this out. So when he's of the right age, when he's old enough, she took him with her, and what did she do?
With 3 bullocks.
No, she came empty-handed.
With 3 bullocks.
3, you know what a bullock is? A steer, cattle. She came with 3 bullocks. Go ahead.
And 1 ephah of flour.
1 ephah of flour. Now, an ephah is approximately 6.1 gallons. Just to give you an idea, it's not a major point in this, but just so that you can get a perspective, she brought basically 6 gallons of flour. Go ahead.
And a bottle of wine.
And a bottle of wine. So she's bringing these things as an offering. Some of it will be offered to the Most High. Some of it is for the priests, because they're the ones doing the work. We talked about that. The priests are the ones who their job was to pray for us and to intermediate on our behalf between us and the Most High. So that's their job. So they got to eat. So she's bringing an offering. She didn't just come up and say, "Oh, here's my son."
Right.
Like our people say, listen, your neighbor across the street say, listen, here, I have an emergency. Can you keep my son for a couple hours? And do it 3 times a week. Yeah, no food, no money, no offering of anything.
Right.
At least say, listen, you know what? I'm broke. I don't have much, but you know, I have a loaf of bread and some cheese to offer your family because I know it's going to be a hardship for you. See, our people expect, oh, well, come on, you understand how it is.
You ain't
so we
doing
just
nothing.
expect, right.
You ain't doing nothing.
You see that expectation. Listen, this is the Most High. Now check this out. Now we expect that and deal with each other like that in the world here, but the Most High, who number 1 has everything, number 2 don't need nothing, and yet what do? Right here, she took that to him because it's the right thing to do.
It shows her character again. Once again,
Yes.
it shows
Humility.
that righteous character,
right.
that humility. Think about it. To drive 3 steers, a baby, 6 gallons of flour and some oil and some wine. Ain't no woman trying to do that. Not in this day and age. They didn't want to deal with their own kids.
She's determined.
Yeah. They didn't want to deal with their kids. She brought 3 cows.
And check out what happens when she brings him. Go ahead.
And brought him unto the house of the Lord in Shiloh. And the child was young.
Make sure we understand. The child was young. Go ahead.
And they slew a bullock and brought the child to Eli.
So they slew a bullock as an offering, and they took the child to Eli, the high priest. Go ahead.
And she said.
Now this is what she said. This is not her husband. This is not anybody else. She, of her own free will, as they like to say in this country,
Right.
What did she do?
Oh my Lord, as thou soul liveth, my Lord.
And she's talking to Eli. Oh my Lord Eli, as my soul liveth.
I am the woman that stood by thee here, praying unto the Lord.
So she's reminding him, because remember, years have passed now. Several years have passed, so she wants to remind him who she is. Go ahead.
For this child I pray.
I prayed for this child.
And the Lord hath given me my petition.
The Lord gave me my petition. He answered my prayer.
Which I asked of him.
That I asked. Go ahead.
Therefore also I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he liveth.
No, for a week.
As long as he liveth.
No, just during summer camp.
As long as he liveth.
No, this is just through vacation Bible school.
As long as he liveth.
No, just for the next month and a half, 2 weeks and a day.
As long as he liveth.
As long as he liveth, what happened?
He shall be lent to the Lord.
He's going to be given to the Lord. Read.
And he worshiped the Lord there.
Now, not only did she say, now she didn't just say, I'm going to dedicate him and take him to church. It said, where did he worship?
He worshiped there.
He worshiped the Lord there. Now, they didn't live in Shiloh. And it said the child was young.
Yep.
So that meant she left him there. And she left. Now wait a minute. The whole purpose of her praying to the Lord was why? Because she couldn't have children. Now I'm not a father. I can't say I know the joy of having my own child. I have nieces and nephews, and so I know that having a niece and a nephew that I love so dearly, and I understand that that's only a portion of what a father could feel or a mother could feel for having their own child. She did not have children. She was upset and frustrated about Penaniah, the other wife, having multiple children. This is her first son. She weans him, and the whole time she's weaning him, she knows, I've got to give this child up. Now I meet women all the time who have children. They say, well, me and my husband want to go on date night, but I'm just not comfortable. The baby's only 6 months old. I'm not comfortable leaving the baby with anybody. Because his mama doesn't live here, and my mama doesn't. Those are the only people I trust. I'm not ready to let the baby even be just for 2 hours with anybody. Even, I don't trust his mother. My mother-in-law, I don't trust her with the child, so I have to be there. So can you imagine, this is her first and only child, and she's going to leave him for how long? Life.
See, it's even like those women that are surrogates, right?
And they turn their mind. Sometimes they change their mind.
Right there, they're like, nope, I'm not giving them up for
and it's not even that. Look, and the surrogate, look, it's not even their egg.
Yeah.
And the husband didn't know. They inseminated the baby with the parents' eggs and the sperm and put them in.
Yeah.
That's not. It's not even her. She's just an incubator.
But it's that maternal.
Instinct.
That maternal instinct.
That's right.
In a woman. That's what was driving her, though. It was
right.
It was a righteous maternal instinct. It wasn't a maternal instinct that women have today. Where it's like, we had a situation too where we had a sister, she had a son, and we were like, look, give him to us. If you want him to be reared the right way and build into a man,
right.
Give him to us. Let us deal with him. She was like, no, she couldn't part with him.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
And that's about her.
It was about her.
It's about her.
Right. That maternal instinct took over, but in the wrong way, where we weren't going to harm him. We were going to build him in righteousness.
Right.
You see that? So,
and that's why I wanted to bring this out. And that's why earlier, when I was talking about women and their ability and capacity to be righteous and do right and have faith. Let me tell you something. When I read this, and I've read it many times, and every time I read it, I just think to myself, I wish that I could always have 1/4 of the faith of Hannah. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Because that's faith. Faith is faith.
Yeah.
We talk about, this is the truth. Well, the truth is, she got more faith than I do. I have to face that. That means I got to work. I got work to do. Because I can't say that I can give away my only child. I can't say that. And then, to top that off, now we know this is her interaction. She went off without, now Elkanah's still at Shiloh giving sacrifice, but this particular conversation was Hannah with herself with Eli. He said, remember when she said years before, she said, I'm not going back until it's time to take him. And he said, you do what you see as best. So when the time came, she had to also face the fact that that's Eli's son. And he had to face, we've had trouble having a child, and she wants to give the child to the service of the Most High. He was so righteous, he said, yeah, you darn right, I'm good with that. He had to be good with that.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy. He had to be good with her vow.
Right. He had to be good with her vow.
And let her fulfill her vow, even though it directly affected him.
Thank you. That's how deep this gets. But that's how deep, that's why we talk about this.
Yeah.
Now again, I'm going to go back. Psychology. The mental and emotional factors governing a situation or activity. The situation was her conceiving, having a child, becoming pregnant, having a child, and giving that child away. The activity, the physical action of having to part with her son. Now it's not like where, like women give a child for adoption and the child's gone at birth.
Right.
So she can't bond
she bonded
with him. She bonded because she weaned him.
Yeah.
She knows the smell of that child, the feel of that child, the warmth of that child on her bosom, the cry, all those little things. She's gotten into that. The bonding process.
The wet cry,
right?
The poop cry, the hunger cry. She knows all
of that.
She bonded,
and she did not hesitate. That's the thing. When it came down, she didn't hesitate. That's important to know and to note about the righteousness of Hannah.
And her husband didn't come and sit there like, why didn't you consult me first, sis?
Nope.
Why didn't you consult me before you talk to the Moses? Like, because brothers be on that. You got brothers that are, like, well, you didn't talk to me about that first.
Right.
You was talking to the Most High, man. Very important.
All right. Now, let's go ahead and go back to the Josephus.
Okay.
And we're going to read in the Josephus, Antiquity of the Jews, book 5, chapter 10. We're going to read section 3. We read the first line about her being glad when Eli had told her, go away, you're gonna be all right. Go back, you're going to be fine. She went back to her husband. She was happy. So go ahead and read on.
And when they had returned to their own country, she found herself with child.
So now again, we're rereading the portion we just read. We're going to see Josephus is going to give us a little bit. They went back to their own country.
And she found herself with child, and they had a son born to them, to whom they gave the name of Samuel, which may be slated, one that was asked of the Most High.
So Samuel means asked of the Most High. That's the name, because he was asked. Names have meaning. Nowadays they don't just come up with Blue Ivy or Northwest. Portia. Yeah, all these kind of Chardonnay, Hennessy.
Right.
You gonna take a French family's name and make it your name? No, that's not Lemangelo.
Alizé.
Right. Yeah, Alizé. Go ahead, read on, brother.
And they therefore came to the tabernacle to offer sacrifice for the birth of the child, and brought their tithes with them.
Now, see, now we get a little detail. They're yearly. Now they went. Remember, we read right at the beginning. Elkanah went yearly to Shiloh to the tabernacle. That's what we read the first chapter. So now it's time for them to take that pilgrimage. They brought tithes, and they brought a sacrifice for the birth of their child, an offering. But check out what happened.
But the woman remembered the vow she had made concerning her son, and delivered him to Eli.
So when the time came, we know that he was old enough. She remembered. It wasn't like, oh no, I ain't gonna come through with that. I bonded with this child.
Well, I live over here.
Yeah,
I live over there.
I gave that promise, but I'm too close to the child now. I'm gonna renege. I'm gonna go back on my word.
Yeah, nobody ain't gonna remember.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it says she delivered him to Eli. Go ahead.
Dedicating him to the Most High, that he might become a prophet.
Read.
Accordingly, his hair was suffered to grow long, and his drink was water.
That reminds you, see, that shows you he was a Nazarite. Because part of a Nazarite, the hair grows, and no wine, nothing of the grape. No raisins, no grapes, no wine, okay? There's a lot of things. It's too much to go into tonight, but we'll have a class on it one day. Go ahead.
So Samuel dwelt and was brought up in the temple.
So he was brought up in the temple. Go ahead.
But Elkanah had other sons by Hannah, and 3 daughters.
So they had 3 daughters and other sons. Okay? So she did have other children. But at the time that she offered and left Samuel at the temple, she didn't know she was going to have more children.
Right.
So that was just on faith. I may not have any others, but I got one, and I'm going to give him to the Most High. And when it said so that he might be a prophet, that goes back to when it said, we said earlier about he would not be ordinary.
Right.
Not everybody was a prophet. That's for sure. And some of the people who thought they were prophesying wasn't prophets. All right, now let's go back to Samuel, and just to show you how sincere she was, chapter 2. 1 Samuel chapter 2, and to start at verse 1. Now this is Hannah's prayer after she had Samuel, her gratefulness to the Most High.
1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 1. And Hannah prayed and said, my heart rejoiceth in the Lord. My horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth is enlarged over my enemies, because I rejoice in thy salvation.
Now sometimes it's good when you read the scriptures. I know sometimes people want, I want to skip over this and skip over that. Sometimes it's good to go in and just read when they're praying. Read the Psalms just to read over. Because number one, we've already established Hannah had faith. There weren't many people, even in the scriptures, there aren't a lot of people that have the faith that Hannah has.
Correct.
Okay? I'm not saying she was the most faithful. I'm just saying is that her faith equaled most of the people of the Bible.
Okay.
Okay, so she was extremely faithful. She did her best to be extremely righteous in her behavior and her conduct. And so this is how she conducts herself. It gives us an example of how we need to start thinking. She prayed. She didn't come, all the neighbors come to the christening.
Right.
You know, come so we can celebrate. We're going to have a baby shower so we can get goodies.
Okay.
Okay? She prayed to the Most High. You going to come in or something?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Verse 2. There is none holy as the Lord, for there is none beside thee. Neither is there any rock like our power. Talk no more so exceeding proudly. Let not arrogance come out of your mouth. For the Lord is a God of knowledge.
He's a God of what?
Knowledge.
Read.
And by him actions are weighed.
Read that part again.
For the Lord is a God of knowledge.
Now, so in other words, he knows. See, they talk about Santa Claus knows everything. He sees you and and all that. Yeah. You know what? The Most High is knowledgeable.
Okay.
He knows. And what does he do?
And by him actions are weighed.
Now, not intentions. Actions are weighed.
True.
And listen, for anybody who has an inkling of doubt, she knows. That's what she's praying from. She's saying the Lord knew what I prayed. He knew my heart. He knew my intentions. And he weighed my actions and blessed me because he knew what I was praying for was from a sincere place.
Okay.
It was of truth and righteousness. It wasn't about my own greed, my own selfishness. I didn't want a son to brag. I wanted a son because that's what I was hurting for. And I wanted to provide my husband with a child. And I was so sincere, I was willing to give him up for life.
Okay.
Read on.
The bows of the mighty men are broken.
Bows.
The bows of the mighty men are broken.
The reason we know it's bows, they talk about the mighty men. So that's like the bow and arrow. The weapons of the mighty men are broken. Read.
And they that stumbled are girded with strength.
See, so the mighty men first shall be last. And they that stumble, the weak, shall be girded with strength, wrapped with strength. Go ahead.
They that were full have hired out themselves for bread.
See, those that had plenty hired themselves out for bread. They can't even eat. Read.
And they that were hungry ceased.
Read. They that were hungry ain't hungry no more. See, that's what she's from her own experience. I didn't have anything, and now I have a great son. Read.
So that the barren hath borne 7, and she that hath many children is waxed feeble.
Read on.
The Lord killeth.
Oh, wait a minute. Read it again.
The Lord killeth.
And do what else?
And maketh alive.
There it is. Okay. Oh no, my Lord is a God of peace.
Right.
Well, yeah, he's about peace. He's also about war. Yeah. And you know what? Hannah, and frankly, if Hannah says it, you know what? I'm going to believe it. Because I see what Hannah's faith is. So if Hannah says that God killeth and maketh alive, you know what? I'm going to believe that. He's about balance. But he kills too. Read on.
He bringeth down to the grave and bringeth up.
He does both. Read.
The Lord maketh poor and maketh rich. He bringeth low and lifteth up. He raiseth up the poor out of the dust and lifteth up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes and to make them inherit the throne of glory.
Read.
For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he has set the world upon them. He will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness.
Right.
For by strength shall no man prevail.
Read this last one.
The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken to pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. The Lord shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king, and exalt the horn of his anointing.
Now, the important thing about that, I like to read the prayers they bring. She was blessed. She had her prayer answered. But in this prayer, not once do you see her say, "Ooh, the Lord bless me, child. Let me go tell everybody about what the Lord did for me. Let me go show everybody what the Lord did for me." Like in today's society where somebody's, ooh, I got me a new Cadillac. Brother, see, look at this new Cadillac. Look, it's got gold trim. Look at that chrome.
Sunroof.
Sitting on them things. Got the sunroof. Look at this leather interior. Because you know why? Because the Lord blessed me. My pastor told me the Lord was going to bless me. He blessed me with this Cadillac. That's not what Hannah did she? She said the Lord blesses those who deal righteously. She praised who?
The Most High.
The Most High. She didn't even praise her son. She praised the Most High. And remember what the first commandment is. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt have no other powers before me. That's what she, so you can see how she automatically locked in. She was in the spirit. She was in the zone. Because, you know why? The reason is because all of it was sincere. She was being real. Talk about keeping it real. She was being real.
God.
She was being as real as you can be. And that's why it was automatic for her not to praise herself, not to be going around. She didn't even go to Penaniah bragging or anything.
Right.
She did, and she did this in the midst of making a major sacrifice of giving her son away. She finally got one, and she gave him away. Yes.
So when it says after he weaned, so that was what, after about a year or maybe a couple months?
Well, back then there's actually a scripture that says they were weaned 3 years, but we know he was old enough to be kept. So he was somewhere probably 3 to 5 years old. I haven't found anything that says his exact age, but he was definitely old enough that he was potty trained. I'm sure he's probably potty trained. He definitely didn't need, he could eat solid food. We know that. That's where it says weaned. So we know he was eating solid food. But we also know it said he was young. Okay, so we know that much. Okay. So just to give you an idea of where her perspective was and what she was all about. Okay. Let's go ahead and read that. Let's read on down. Did you have something you want?
No.
Okay, I saw you looking on down to make sure. All right. Now read. Wait a second. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and read. Prayers for the Most High. Oh yeah. Read verse 11. Yeah, we're gonna finish this. Read 11 and 12.
1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 11. And Elkanah went to Ramah to his house, and the child did minister to the Lord before Eli the priest.
Okay, so Elkanah. So she left. Elkanah said he went back to his house. So they left their son, their young son, to deal with the priests in the house of the Most High. Go ahead, or in the tabernacle. Go ahead.
Now the sons of Eli were sons of Belial.
All right, so now they Satan worshiping, they worshiping other gods. Now remember, the sons of Eli, because when we read at the very beginning, and I'll just go back to it real quick, is in chapter 1 and verse 3, where it said, and I'll just read it real quick. And this man went up out of the city, Elkanah, yearly to worship, to sacrifice to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests of the Lord there. Well, now we're finding out about this. It said the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. Read.
They knew not the Lord.
Okay. Now, wait a minute. They were Eli's son. Eli was the high priest. They were the high priests. They were the priests beneath him in ranking. They were his sons. Next in line to be high priest. They were the pastor's sons. The preacher's sons.
Yeah, the preacher's daughter.
The preacher's sons.
Wicked, right?
Okay. Well, we'll find it out. These are sons of Belial.
And
now,
just on the definition of that.
Yes.
They were basically, it says when you define Belial in the Strong's, worthlessness, good for nothing, unprofitable, base, wicked, ruin, destruction.
That's all you need.
Evil, naughty, ungodly men.
Okay. And we're going to read about that. Okay. So as I said, they were sons of Belial. Now, read verse 13.
Verse 13. And the priest's customs, it's like in the priest's custom with the people was that.
Now, I know I cut y'all right in mid-sentence. I'll tell you why. The key to that, and the priest's custom. Which priests are we talking about?
Eli's sons.
Eli's sons, Hophni and Phinehas. Now this did not say the Lord's custom, the law, according to what Aaron was given by Moses.
Right, this is what they
When we read this is what these sons of Belial, these wicked two dudes were doing.
Tradition of men.
No, it says they're accustomed with the people.
Okay.
The reason I'm stopping, I want to get this very important because we're about to get into it now. Okay? We're about to get into it with them. So, the priest's custom with the people was
that when any man offered sacrifice,
anybody came with a sacrifice, what did they do?
The priest's servant came while the flesh was in the sheathing with a flesh hook of 3 teeth in his hand.
So, when someone came, now, we already talked about when someone came to give a sacrifice, you had the burnt offering, all the intestines, the organs, all the internal organs that we don't eat. That was supposed to be put on the fire and burned to the Most High.
Okay.
Then when you dress or portion up the meat, you give the portion, the shoulder, which was the best meat, you gave the best portions to the priest, right?
Okay.
But these two dudes, their custom, now giving the portion to the priest, to the Levites, that was the law. That was what the Lord said to do. These dudes' custom, that's why it said in 13, and the priest's custom was to come, and it said, well, the flesh was in seething. Seething means still boiling, still frying. So when you're cooking the meat, because of course you don't go give the raw meat to the Levites. You cook it and then present it like you know, I've got a plate for you.
Right.
Okay, you bring the food cooked to them. So you're supposed to take the best portion and take it to the priest. But when the food is still cooking, it said they took a flesh hook. So they took a metal hook with 3 teeth, almost like a fork kind of thing, and they put it down in there. Okay, and check out 14 will tell you what they did with it.
Verse 14. And he struck it into the pan, or kettle, or cauldron, or pot.
So, you might be cooking, just like you cook, you might cook something in a skillet. You might cook something in a pot. You might cook something in a big old deep stock pot. Whatever it was, it didn't matter what you were cooking it in, they would take this hook and dip it in there. Read.
All that the flesh brought up, the priest took.
Oh, read it again.
All that the flesh hook brought up, the priest took for himself.
Now, said all that this hook, whatever, and just dip it in there. Because maybe you're making a stew. You know, you have them stews, you don't know what's in there, it's a pot. You know, you don't know how the meat's breaking down. They would put the hook in there, whatever it pulled up, that they take that. But that was on top of, in addition to the offering. So now look, brother, you came and you did your offering. So now you prayed to the Most High. You did, all the organs were given to the servants at the tabernacle to burn to the Most High. You sent up prayers. So now you go cook the meat after you've taken it. You bring the shoulder, which is the best. You've given them the big piece of chicken. You've given them the best piece of meat as an offering. On top of that, they come. Now this is supposed to be the portion. Remember we read about Elkanah gave the portion to his wives. And he gave Hannah the good portion. So this is the part for you and your family. They come and dip in the pot that's supposed to be for you and your family. They got theirs. And they got the best piece. Listen, they're eating the ribeye. They're eating the filet mignon. You got the cube steak for your family. And they come over and they want to dip into yours too. On top of what they've already got.
Double dip.
Remember, that's why before it went into this, it said in verse 12, the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. And the brother read they were worthless, ungodly. They knew not the Lord. So they would come and take that hook. So before you could even eat your family, you would give the priest their portion before you even fed your family.
They took yours.
So then they get theirs, and they still coming for more.
That's not the government, right?
Yeah.
You pay taxes and they come back and double dip on taxes.
What's my man say? Give me some more.
Give me some more.
You just got yours. Give me some more. You just got the best piece. Give me some more.
Yeah.
Okay. So they went and took more. Go ahead.
So they did in Shiloh unto all the Israelites that came thither.
Now, they did to all the Israelites. Now, guess what? That was the tabernacle. Eli went once a year. Now, if you look at the law, there are certain times we're supposed to go.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go all the time, but Day of Atonement, Passover, and Feast of Tabernacles.
Yep, those 3 times.
So 3 times a year, all the men had to come. So and they brought their family. That's what Elkanah was doing every year. So when it says this is what they did unto all the Israelites that came thither, that meant that they gaffled you at least 3 times a year. And then there were people who lived in Shiloh or around Shiloh who would go see the tabernacle maybe every day.
They were
twice a week, once a week, right. Every day. Because this is the way it worked. Joshua gave Israel their lands. Judah's here, Benjamin's here, Ephraim's there. All the tribes had their lands. And in your land were Levites. So when you committed a sin, it's Tuesday afternoon, you committed a sin, you go see in your local area, you go see the priest in your local area. 3 times a year, you had to go to Shiloh to present yourself. Everybody, no matter where you lived. But some people, their local area was Shiloh. So they were getting people every day, all day, every day.
Yeah, the temple, the offering never shut down. It
right.
was like a 24-hour operation.
So there was somebody there at Shiloh going to offer daily. It's just that everybody had to come 3 times a year, but they would get you after you already paid them. You know, it's like you paid your tithes, and then they're like, no, "Come, give me what's in your pocket? Come on, give me some more.
I want your percent.
I want yours. I want more." Okay. Damn. So read on, brother. Tell me where you are.
This is 1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 15.
Now it gets deeper. Read.
Also, before they burnt the fat, the priest's servant came and said to the man that sacrificed, "Give flesh to the roast for the priest, that the sacrifice."
No, read it again.
Verse start at the top.
Yes, start at the top.
Also, before they burnt the fat, the priest's servant came and said to the man that sacrificed.
Stop. Now, this is what happens. There are so many people and so much sacrificing going on. You had the priests. The priests had assistants, servants. That's what Samuel was. Okay, he was a servant. So there were people, for example, they had all these different tools to burn, like they burn incense, right? And y'all brothers know when the brothers have the tray that they, like you burn the charcoal incense here at school.
Okay.
Somebody's got to clean that off. So somebody has to, okay, I got to clean that. So there were people who had all these, there were things they had to clean the bowls, they had to wash, clean the tabernacle, they had to sweep, they had to, and so they would send servants. So when you brought your offering, you might bring your offering and say, okay, this is for the burnt offering. So you have your bull. You slaughter the bull, you take all the internal organs, you put it in a container, and take it to the tabernacle. Well, then they had a servant there who would say, okay, this is my job, is to take it from you. Say, okay, brother, we're going to pray for you. And take it, and then take it to the priest so they could burn it. So what happened was, these 2 cats, Hophni and Phinehas, would send one of their servants and say to the man that was actually doing the burning, who was an assistant to the priests, they would say to him what?
Give flesh to roast for the priest.
Give flesh to roast for the priest. Now, what flesh did they have? We just read it. Before they burnt the fat. Exactly. They had all the fat, the organs, all the chitlins, the heart, the liver, all that stuff, the brains, all that stuff that we don't eat, the eyeballs. So they said,
it tells you in the law that the fat was for the Most High.
That's exactly the burnt offering.
That was the burnt offering.
And he said it was a sweet savor for him. So what happened was, now first, see, and this is why we got to take our time with this, because I want to make sure we line this up right. We just read that when you gave the offering, the meat, the stuff you could eat, you gave them their portion, the shoulder, which was the good stuff. Then the part that you're going to give, you're cooking for your family to eat, they come and take a piece of that. That's the good meat that you can eat. The problem is they got theirs, but they're trying to get on your plate now. They're trying to take from your family. Or they are taking, not trying to. They're taking. Then on top of that, they go to the burnt offering, which was supposed to go directly to the Most High. We weren't even supposed to be eating that. And before the man could even cook it, they said, give us flesh, give us some of that organ, give us some of that tongue. Let me get some of them brains, that hog head cheese. Let me get some of that tripe. Let me get some of them chitlins. And check it out though. Check it out. Not only do they want that, but read.
For he will not have sodden flesh of thee, but raw.
Sodden is cooked.
Yeah.
But what?
But raw.
So not only did they want the chitlins, the heart, the liver, the brains. They wanted them what?
But raw.
They wanted them raw.
They wanted it still moving. That was that medium.
But they didn't just want
rare.
No, they didn't just want rare steak.
They wanted it raw.
This is rare brain.
Damn.
That's what I'm trying to say. Read the scripture again, brother, so y'all be clear. The meat, the regular meat was cooked. Because they said in verse 14, in 13 and 14, where they went to the pot or the pan or the kettle, that was the cooked stuff while it was still cooking.
Right.
But this, read from the top again, verse 15.
Verse 15. Also before they burnt the fat.
Before they burned the fat was the actual fat, but it was also the internal organs. All of that stuff that were not even supposed to be eaten before they could cook it, because they were supposed to be burnt to the Most High. Nobody ate that. It was burnt to ashes. But before they could get it, what did they do?
The priest servant came.
The servant of these two cats came and said what?
And said to the man that sacrificed.
Said to the man whose job it was to burn the stuff.
Give flesh to roast for the priest.
Give flesh to the priest and do what?
For he will not have sodden flesh of thee, but raw.
And we ain't supposed to be eating no raw meat because we're not supposed to eat the blood.
Right.
So they wanted raw. We're not supposed to have the fat. We're not supposed to have the organs. So they're stealing from the people. And it said they did that to all of Israel. Then they're also, not only do they want to take the organs and take the fat, but you know what else they're doing? That fat that they're talking about in verse 15, you as an individual gave that fat as an offering to the Most High for your atonement, a burnt offering to the Most High. So that's like if right now, if y'all started praying right now, you said we're going to pray, and you're praying, and I come over and say, hey, no, you can't pray. So now I'm trying to interrupt your prayer to the Most High.
God.
I'm trying to block that.
Yep.
You see, that's why in verse 12 it said the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. They were wicked, useless, worthless, and they knew not the Most High. That's why. That shows you how wicked these two cats were. Now, let's read on down.
Verse 16. And if any man said unto him, let them not fail to burn the fat presently, and then take as much as thy soul desireth, then he would answer him, nay, but thou shalt give it me now. And if not, I will take it by force.
So they said, if the guy said, no, let me at least cook this first. Don't eat no raw stuff. At least let me cook it, and then you take whatever you want. They said, no, we want it raw, or else I'm going to take it by force. Okay, I'm going to jack you. Yeah. You know what it is.
It seemed like that was like worse than Esau in a way.
But you know what they were. And that's why, again, verse 12. Now the sons of Eli were sons of Belial. It said worthless, and it said, and they knew not the Lord. Now remember, these are the priests, the high priest's sons. The firstborn of these two is going to be the next high priest. And this is what they're doing to Israel, to all of Israel. Read on down, brother.
Verse 17.
Right.
Wherefore the sin of the young men was very great before the Lord. For men abhorred the offering of the Lord.
See, they abhorred, they hated the offering of the Most High. Show you how evil they were. Now, just hold that. We're going back to the Josephus. Now, if you remember, when we went to the Josephus, I told you there was a section I didn't want you to read. You started at section 2, and there's a reason.
Yep.
We're going to go to, it's in the Antiquity of the Jews, book 5, chapter 10. Now we're going to read section 1.
Yep.
And this is going to go right along with what we were just reading about the sons, Hophni and Phinehas, the sons of Eli.
So this is book 5, chapter 10, section 1. And now, upon the ill state of the affairs of the Hebrews, they made war again upon the Philistines. The occasion was this.
Now, the war against the Philistines, we're probably not going to get to that tonight. We're going to try, but we probably won't get that far. This happens after. But this is the reason for the war. Check out why it happened.
Eli the high priest had 2 sons.
Eli had 2 sons.
Hophni and Phinehas. These sons of Eli were guilty of injustice towards men and of impiety towards the Most High.
Wickedness toward the Most High. They were unjust toward men. Now these are men who were high priests, so they were in a position to judge men. They were in a position of judgment and honor. They were not righteous. They didn't deal right with they were guilty of injustice toward men, and wickedness toward the Most High. Read on.
And abstain from no sort of wickedness.
No, how much wickedness?
No sort of wickedness.
They did not hold back from any kind of wickedness. Now, we just read some of it, but check this out. What do they say now? Wait, there's more.
There's more.
Okay? We know they took the food. They ate the food they weren't supposed to eat. They took the food they weren't supposed to take. But what else did they do?
Some of their gifts they carried off.
See, some of their gifts they carried off. Now, when you gave to the priests, that was supposed to be for the good of the temple. Mm-hmm. It wasn't supposed to be just for their own good. Mm-hmm. They carried off. They took it to themselves. They were greedy and selfish. Go ahead.
As belonging to the honorable employment they had.
See, it actually belonged to the Levites. You would offer and say, this is the good portion of meat for the temple, so all the priests and their servants could eat, but they would take it themselves and eat it. You would give sacrifice. You might give alms and tithes of money and goods. And it was supposed to be spread around. Right. They didn't spread it around. They kept it amongst themselves. Read on. Oh, it gets even worse. Wait, there's more.
Others of them they took away by violence.
They did what?
Took away by violence.
So they were jacking people. The priests, gangstering people. They took away by violence, beating people up, harming people, killing people, murder,
sending their goons.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
Sending their goon squads out.
Yeah. Sending out their goon squads to go jack people.
In the name of the priest.
In the name of the priest.
Read. They also were guilty of impurity with the women that came to worship the Most High.
No, they were. Now, see, didn't say they went to the harlots' houses. It didn't say they went to the other nations' women.
With the women that came to worship the Most High.
So the women that came. Now remember, this wasn't just your neighborhood storefront church down the street. Right. This was where the tabernacle was. These are the sons of the high priest, two of the top priests in the nation. And it said they were doing stuff with wickedness with the women. Check out what they did.
At the tabernacle, obliging some to submit to their lusts by force.
By force. So some of them, they raped them. So they had them submit to their lust by force. Woman going up. Now imagine, this could have happened to Hannah. Because remember, Hannah went by herself. She was crying. Mm-hmm. She went to go. All she wanted to do was go pray to the Most High to have a son. Yep. Now, how many other women were going, maybe for the same reason, maybe for other reasons, but just, I'm going to pray to the Most High, and they said they made them submit by force. So they were raping them. Go ahead.
Obliging some to submit to their lust by force, and enticing others by bribes.
See, and enticing others by bribes. Because remember, they've got gold, they've got wealth, they've got jewels and gems, got that bling bling. Mm-hmm. You know what, baby? I'm a player. I'm the high priest's son. Right. What you know about high priest's son, baby? What you know about that? See, I'm telling you, that's how, but this is what we're reading.
Or basically, if you don't do this, I'm not gonna pray for you.
Right.
I'm not gonna speak on your. They were the mediators between us and the Most High.
Right.
So it was like, well, if you don't bring me your daughter, it was on some levels. Like, bring me your daughter, bring me this, bring me that, and then I'll ask I'll petition the Most High for you. I mean, you can see. You know what's funny when I correlate? I'm like, yeah, that sounds like some Roman Catholic Church. When you watch like all these Roman Catholic movies, and it starts out, the first scene is the high priest banging some young chick, and it's not even his wife, and it's somebody else's daughter, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute.
Now I'm glad you said that, because now when you sit and look, and you see that it wasn't just the Catholic priests,
right?
Mm-hmm. This was our people, and they were doing it to our women.
Yeah, that's where they got it from.
They weren't even doing it to other people.
That's where they.
I'm not saying they should have been doing it, but they weren't even going to other nations doing it. They doing it to their own.
Yeah.
That's cool. And have the nerve. Look, sisters up there, they're at the festival, and Thursday morning, they go and rape her around the back of the tent, and then Thursday night they receive an offering from her husband.
From her husband, right?
That's cold.
That's why it said they were sons of Belial. They did not know the Most High. This is how wicked. I told you we're not gonna cover the bad. We're gonna get to the good. We talked about the good with Hannah. We talked about the good with her husband, how they dealt with each other, how they dealt with the Most High. But let's get into the bad too, when we can see how it is. Read on.
Nay, the whole course of their lives was no better than tyranny.
Wait a minute. The what?
The whole course of their lives was no better than tyranny.
The whole course, their entire lives, they were tyrants.
Damn.
their entire lives. And how do we know that? We just read in here when it said that if you had a pot or a cauldron, how they put that fork in there, and it said that they so they did in Shiloh unto all the Israelites that came. So they did that to everybody. Their lives were about being tyrants.
So they used their position from the time they could understand who they were.
Right.
From children, they were like, "Well, we're the sons of the high priest, so
right.
We're gonna bribe you, beat you up, use our position." They did that for their whole life.
For their whole lives.
Yes, sir.
They sound like mobsters.
Yeah, exactly.
Modern day monsters.
But see, look where it come from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's why you gotta be careful when you point the finger, man.
Exactly.
The nations learned a lot from us.
Exactly.
They should have been learning good, but they learned a lot of evil.
Now, let me hold that. We're going to come back. There's more in there we're going to come back to. We're going back to the Bible. This is why we jump back and forth to kind of fill it. Because you see, and this is an example of why I use the Josephus. Because when we read the scriptures, I mean, it showed they were being wicked. We read the scripture. But it didn't talk about what they did with women.
Right.
So it wasn't just that they were taking the offerings, which already is a penalty punishable by death and damnation. But they were also raping. It said they did, not only did they bribe some of the women, so some of the women were already wanting to do that anyway.
Right.
But also that they were taking women by force and forcing them. Okay? And forcing them. So now let's go back to Samuel.
2 Samuel chapter 2.
Verse 18.
In verse 18.
Yes.
But Samuel ministered before the Lord, being a child, girded with a linen ephod.
He had his little breastplate, his little linen breastplate. But it said being a child, he did what he's supposed to do. Go ahead.
Moreover, his mother made him a little coat.
Now check this out. This goes back to even more about Hannah. So moreover, his mother made him a coat.
And brought it to him from year to year, when she came up with her husband to offer the yearly sacrifice.
That's when she got to see him. So now let's go back to the righteousness of Hannah and her vow. She got to see him once a year. That goes back to, she was praying to have a child. She gave the child up. She got to see him once a year. She would make him, and that was a handmade coat. She didn't buy him no Gucci. No. Buy him no Vuitton. Look, I got you a Vuitton. From the I went down to the outlets. I went to Burlington. People go to Burlington and they doing something. They don't even realize that's the ones that didn't pass inspection.
Oh.
Right. Marshalls. It is. Ross. When you read it, Ross, Marshall, don't get me wrong. I'm TJ Maxx. I've shopped at all of them.
I'm that guy.
But the bottom line is, don't try and think you a baller because you got some, you got some name brand Jordans out of TJ Maxx or Marshalls.
Right.
Those are the Jordans that didn't make the cut, and Foot Locker wasn't gonna take them.
Dang.
But they wanted to sell them anyway.
They were good enough to sell, but it's not that Foot Locker.
Not good enough for Foot Locker. Wow. And that's how it is. So she didn't do no name brand. She put her handwork into it. But she saw him once a year. Go ahead, brother. You got
no, Proverbs 31.
Right.
Put her hand to that spindle. She sold.
Right.
Righteous woman. Virtuous woman.
Thank you. Go ahead, read on.
Verse 21. Verse 20. And Eli blessed Elkanah and his wife, and said, the Lord give thee seed of this woman for the loan which is lent to the Lord. And they went unto their own home.
Now we read Josephus, and this is going to bring it out. Go ahead.
And the Lord visited Hannah, so that she conceived.
Right.
And bare 3 sons and 2 daughters.
So she had more children. That was the blessing that she got for not only, now she got Samuel as a blessing because of her vow and her faith. Okay. But when she gave him up, she followed her vow. She came through what she was supposed to do, like she promised. And so he blessed her with more children.
And the child Samuel grew before the Lord. Now Eli was very old, and heard all that his sons did unto all Israel, and how they lay with the women that assembled at the door of the tabernacles of the congregation.
Now you see, the scripture said he knew how they laid with them. But if you just read the Bible, that just sounds like they were sleeping around.
Right.
Like the women were.
That's going to tell you. Like maybe the women were participants, maybe they weren't. We don't know. That's why the Josephus helps us have a better understanding. In that we know that some of them were, they give them some jewels, give them some goodies, they accepted it, but some of them were forced. And notice, neither the scripture nor the Bible says whether they were married, whether they were single. Doesn't tell you any of those details.
But you know.
Yeah, I'm just saying though. That's why I want people.
Right.
And again, this is why I'm teaching the class the way I am, so we can see. We got to go. When you look at this, when I lift this up and I say, if I say to the class, describe this phone, somebody might say, well, it's a phone. Somebody might say it's black. Somebody might say it's 5 inches long. You know, so everybody has a different perspective. And to get the whole thing, you can't just look at this side. You got to look at this. You got to look at that. You got to look at that. You got to look at the whole picture to understand the whole thing. And so that's with the scriptures. You got to go in and pull stuff out. And you can read a story for years, and all of a sudden you'll read it again and be like, oh, dang, something clicked, and I realized I didn't even know that was in there. So it's a lot to get out of this. That's why we're just taking our time with this so we can see it. This is also, again, we talked about the sociology, the interactions. One of the things, you know what, there was one I missed. There was a big one I missed.
What was that?
Sociology. Now, we're not going to read it, but we talked about how Hannah went into the temple the first time. She was praying, and her lips were moving, but she wasn't saying anything. And Eli was like, are you drunk? Get on out of here with your drunk self. The sociology of that, the study of our behavior as social beings, concerning everything from analyzing the short contacts between anonymous individuals.
We did miss that.
Because they were anonymous to each other.
Sir.
So that's why, see, we've studied sociology in here. We ain't just studying the Bible, we studied sociology.
Right.
We're just reading about how Eli's sons were being wicked with the people, raping women at the temple who were going to pray. Not only were they weren't women going out to the club.
Right.
They were coming to do righteous.
Right.
And they would rape them.
Sad.
Beyond sad, but you're right. But it's just to show you, and the psychology, the mental characteristics and emotional factors that govern a situation. It shows you how wicked they really were. You got to see this for what it is, because these are our people. We ain't talking about no other nation right now. This is all us. This is what I like to say is like when you have a puppy, you train them how to be potty trained. And they poop in the house. You take that nose, you put right down in there. And they're doing this. They fight. We can't fight it. We got to look at it so that we don't repeat it. That's why you do that to the dog. You love the puppy. Right. You want to keep the puppy. But you ain't going to have the puppy pooping in the house. And so this is for love. Right. And so that's what we got to see our own stuff. So we can come out of this stuff and realize how bad it was. And now let's read on down. We are going to, where were we, brother?
Verse 22.
Tell them what book you're in.
This is 1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 22.
Yes, sir.
Now Eli was very old and heard that all his sons had did unto all Israel.
Right.
And how they lay with the women that assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation.
Now, we know this says they laid with them. We know in the Josephus that some of them they bribed with gold and jewels and gems, and some of those women they raped. And this is the high priest's sons. Go ahead.
And he said unto them.
So Eli, he was very old, and he said to his sons, go ahead.
Why do ye such things?
Why are you doing this stuff? What's wrong with y'all?
For I hear of your evil dealings by all this people.
So he heard the people were complaining. It got so bad the folks was talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knew.
Like, this is off.
The neighborhood knew. Everybody knew. All Israel knew. Go ahead.
Verse 24. Nay, my sons, for it is no good report that I hear. Ye make the Lord's people to transgress.
See, sons, you make the Lord's people to transgress, because their whole purpose was to lead the people to righteousness. Eli's the high priest, and they're his sons. Read the next one, and then we're going to go back to Josephus real quick.
Verse 25. If one man sin against another, the judge shall judge him.
If one man sins against another, the judge is going to judge him. Go ahead.
But if a man sin against the Lord,
read.
Who shall entreat for him?
If a man sins against the Most High, who's going to stand in for him? If he sins against a man, other men can judge that. But if you sin against the Most High, who's going to stand there for you? Right. Exactly. Exactly, brother. Read on.
Notwithstanding, they hearken not unto the voice of their father.
They still didn't listen.
Because the Lord would slay them.
Because the Lord had already determined what he was going to do. Just like he did with Pharaoh. Where he told Moses, go to Pharaoh, but I'm going to harden his heart because I got plans to do something with Pharaoh. So he already decided what he was going to do with these two cats. So, let's hold that. We're going back to Josephus. To finish up section, what do you say, Brother Cole?
Yeah, that's cold.
Yeah, that's why the Most High ain't playing about dealing righteously and your intentions.
But that's why, man, that's why the Most High is not playing with men that have a position or that are given a position and abuse it. You gotta see these men. What were they about? They were about. It's no different than the preachers and the pastors today. What are they on? You watch all the little Facebook and you see all the little pastors. They're like, yeah, they gotta sleep with the whole congregation to make them righteous, or they gotta impregnate the women for God to hear their prayers. See, the Most High is not. Listen, the Most High don't mess with that. The Most High is he doesn't look kindly on that. And these men get taken out. Congregations, churches, it all gets destroyed when it's about running through the congregation, abusing the congregation. Real quick, go to Isaiah 9, real fast. Go to Isaiah 9 real quick. Just gotta hit this point because it's a touchy. It ain't touchy. It's touchy for some because brothers don't know how to operate. Read this. Read. Is it Isaiah 9 and 6? Is that what I wanted?
Yes, sir. For unto the child was born.
No, Isaiah 9:16. Slide here.
Isaiah chapter 9 verse 16.
Go ahead.
For the leaders of this people caused them to err.
For the what?
The leaders of this people caused them to err.
Yeah, see, these men were supposed to be what? Leading the people to the Most High.
Right.
Leading the people to righteousness.
Right.
Not abusing and taking advantage of whatever ailments and that's the problem with our people, man. We get into position, we get into power, and it will take and abuse the people under us. We'll abuse our power, but we'll destroy the ones under. These men, these priests, these high-ranking men, what were they doing? They were abusing the people, man. They were leading the people away from the Most High and causing the people to err. Read on.
And they that are led of them are destroyed.
And they that what?
Are led of them are destroyed.
They that are led of these wicked men are destroyed. Now, what were these men supposed to be doing? What did the Most High entrust them with? Go to Peter's real quick. Go to Peter's. I'm gonna let you get back in. I'm gonna let you jump back in.
You're right on point.
Go
This
to
is
Peter's.
to that part of it now.
Which one do I want? Taking the oversight. Where's it at? It's who got it?
1 Peter chapter 5 verse 2.
There he is, the swordsmith. Read.
1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 2.
Come on.
Feed the flock.
They were supposed to wait. Phineas and Hophni were supposed to do what?
Feed the flock.
No, bet them all down.
Feed the flock.
Read.
Of Yahweh.
Come on.
Which is among you.
Go read on.
Taking the oversight thereof.
Doing what?
Taking the oversight thereof.
Using and abusing?
Taking the oversight thereof.
Wait, just turn them and burn them.
Taking the oversight thereof.
They were supposed to be taking the oversight of the flock. Not just, oh yeah, she's a dime piece, let me hit it. Oh well, I'm a high priest, I got rank, so I'm gonna hit it, I'm gonna bribe her, and nobody's gonna know. Even if they dealt with these women, they were supposed to at least make them their wife. But how you gonna make another man's wife your wife? It ain't gonna happen. That's why they had to do things on the low. Read on.
Not by constraint.
Not by what?
Not by constraint.
Yeah, see, they were doing things out of constraint. Even dealing with the women, dealing with the congregation.
Right.
They were taking things by
the fork and just take
flesh hooks.
Take it.
By constraint.
Taking the burnt sacrifice, your burnt offering for your sins.
Right.
Take it.
Causing you to err.
Right. Causing you to have a rift between you and the
Most High. Read on.
But willingly.
But what?
Willingly.
See, these men were in autopilot. These men weren't willing to do the job that the scriptures say was much is given, much is required. Right? They weren't willing to do the requirement of the job.
Right.
It wasn't, they just wanted a title. Oh, I'm a high priest. I'm gonna sit back, have bed a few women down, eat good, drink good,
and then I might do my job. But even in their job, they were like, nigga, we ain't doing that.
Right. That's right.
They weren't even doing their job.
That's right.
Read on.
Not for filthy lucre.
Not for what?
Filthy lucre.
Yeah, not for gain. That filthy gain.
That's right.
They were on that filthy lucre. Come on.
But of a ready mind.
But of a what?
But of a ready mind.
But see, when we read into Josephus and we link it with the scriptures, their minds were never ready to take on the duty.
Right.
That's why you read that Timothy's 3 about a bishop, and it said if a man desire this work, he desire a good work. And it gives all this, and I'm not going to go there because then I'll take over his whole class, but it gives all the stipulations of a bishop.
Right.
A man on one wife, sober, not a striker, not greedy, not for filthy lucre, not covetous. But then also his wife had to be the same way, the women. All these characteristics, man, is what we're trying to instill in brothers. We're trying to instill in men so that they can be faithful men that can go out and teach what's been handed down.
Right.
Brothers want to be like glorious teachers and they want to shine and be gods, but you can't control your anger. You can't control your lust. You still greedy. You still on the carnal mind. You still on women. Right? When you're supposed to be on scripture, Bible, spirit. Brothers gotta wake up and see. Do you want to be like these priests? Do you?
Hannah.
Yeah, you want to be like these priests, or you want to be like Hannah, right? Brothers like, oh, like a woman. But the characteristics.
Yes, the characteristic. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You heard how she is.
What characteristics?
Right. It's her spirit.
Right.
That's what the Most High deals with.
The spirit.
It's the spirit. The sincerity of spirit.
Mm-hmm.
The truth and the righteousness. Now we're going to hold where we are.
Let's jump back.
Mm-hmm. We're going to Josephus right now.
Okay.
And we're still in Antiquity of the Jews, book 5, chapter 10. And we're halfway through section 1.
Down at 340. Where it says their father was very angry?
Exactly. Now remember, we just read in Josephus that their whole lives was tyranny.
Right.
We just read that part. That their lives were tyranny. Now let's read further.
Their father, therefore, was angry at them for their such wickedness.
Now, we just read about it in the scriptures about how Eli called them in and said, don't be like this. This is wicked what you're doing. Read on.
And expected that the Most High would suddenly inflict his punishments upon them for what they had done.
So he expected the Most High is going to punish them. But read on. Check this out.
The multitude took it heinously also.
Of course the multitude took it heinously because they were doing that to their wives. But the thing was, at this time, the multitude was under their control. So they couldn't really speak up.
Those that are led of them, they caused them to err.
Exactly. Read on.
And as soon as the Most High had foretold what calamity would foretell Eli's sons, what calamity would befall Eli's sons, which he did both to Eli himself and to Samuel the prophet, who was yet but a child. He openly showed his sorrow for his son's destruction.
So it's basically, it said, as soon as the Most High told Eli what was going to happen to his sons and what he was going to do to Eli, and he also told Eli what he was going to do with Samuel, then Eli regretted it. Now, the reason this went down, we're about to read it in the scriptures, is because Eli told his sons, y'all shouldn't be doing this. I know what y'all been doing. Y'all shouldn't be doing this. But now, according to not only the law at this time, but according to righteousness and what the right thing to do is, Eli let his sons get off easy. His sons were out there stealing from the people. Okay, stealing the offerings from the people. Breaking the law. Raping women. Bribing women. Taking them from their path. Because it said the women who were trying to go in and worship. And all he did was and gave them a stern talking to, and then they didn't listen. When he should have had them stoned to death. That would have been the righteous thing. Just because it was their sons, just because it was Eli's sons, they were being wicked. And they knew they were being wicked, and they didn't stop. And that's the key to it. You can forgive a sin, but if there's no repentance. And repentance ain't good enough when you just say, oh, I'm sorry. And And it said here, because if you go back and do it, then how are you repentant? And then it even said in the scriptures we read that they didn't even pay him no mind. They just went on doing what they were doing. Now the Most High said he's not a respecter of persons. He also said, do not pervert judgment. So Eli, what Eli should have done was had his sons put to death. Because there was no room for repentance if they kept doing it. It's not that they couldn't have a chance, but if they kept doing it, well, y'all, I can't work with y'all.
It's just like Aaron's sons.
Exactly.
It's just like Aaron's sons when they burned
the incense.
They burnt the incense, and the Most High put them to death. And he said,
strange incense.
Strange incense.
That's right.
And the Most High put them to death and said, don't even mourn for them. Eli didn't want to go through that.
See, he didn't want to do that. So he allowed, but see, whereas Hannah had faith in the Most High, and then after the Most High blessed her and gave her what she asked for, she had the strength and the faith and the fortitude and the righteousness to give up her son like she promised. Eli wanted to hold on to his sons, but they were wicked.
Ooh, hold on.
See, Eli wanted to hold on to his, and so that's why we're going to read about it. He's going to bring the scripture, and then we're going to read about what happened to Eli's sons and to Eli.
I'm just quoting. Yeah, they say, have no, if unprofitable, in the multitude of unprofitable children, where is it at? It's in Ecclesiasticus, real quick.
16.
You got it? Ecclesiasticus, yep. It's Ecclesiasticus 16 and verse 1. Read that.
Desire not a multitude of unprofitable children.
Come on.
Neither delight in ungodly sons.
Neither what?
Delight in ungodly sons.
And y'all can read down, but the scriptures is telling us you're not supposed to delight in ungodly sons.
That's right.
Which is what was Phineas and Hophni.
That's right.
These dudes were ungodly. Yeah. Sons of Belial.
That's right.
That's that Ecclesiastes 30.
No, you're right.
About them sons.
That's it.
Let's jump back. Y'all can read down.
Now, we're going to go back to the scriptures, back to the Bible, and we're going to 1 Samuel, and let's read on down. We're at what, verse 26?
Yes, sir. 1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 26.
Now, we're going to read, we just read in Josephus that when Eli found out what the Most High said was going to happen, then he regretted how he dealt with his sons. He regretted losing his sons. We're going to find out what happened. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 26. And the child Samuel grew on and was in favor both with the Lord and also with men.
And also with men. So he was doing right. The people loved him. The Most High loved him. Go ahead.
And there came a man of God unto Eli and said unto him, Thus saith the Lord.
Now, it said the child Samuel grew on. So now years have gone by. See, all this didn't happen in a day.
Right.
That's why when you read the scriptures, you got to really go in there, because sometimes it might be a period of 10 years, 20 years, 40 years that you're reading about in 2 or 3 passages. So the Most High can come in when he wants to throw down.
Right. Yep.
So the prophet came in, the man of God came to Eli, go ahead.
And said unto him, Thus saith the Lord.
This is what the Lord said, Eli.
Did I plainly appear unto the house of thy father when they were in Egypt in Pharaoh's house?
Because remember this, he's a descendant of Aaron, the high priest, back in Egypt. Go ahead.
And did I choose him out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest?
See, so the Most High is giving him his lineage. Didn't I go to your forefather Aaron and choose him to be the high priest? Go ahead.
To offer upon my altar, to burn incense, to wear an ephod before men. And did I give unto the house of thy father all the offerings made by fire of the children of Israel?
Read.
Wherefore kick ye at my sacrifice and at my offering?
See, why are you messing with my offerings? Because remember we read that Phineas and Hophni were telling the men, don't burn the fat. Remember, the fat was the offering to the Most High. And they said, don't burn the fat. We're going to take that. And if anybody said, no, don't do that, then they say, take it by violence.
Right.
So he's saying, that's why the Lord's saying, why are you taking my offering? You're taking out of my pocket now. And the thing is, when you read about when the Most High showed Moses and Aaron about the burnt offerings, he said that you would burn that portion. You burn the fat. Now, I don't know if y'all, when you cook, if you have a piece of fatty meat, you burn it, it stinks. When fat, not meat, but when fat burns, it stinks. But the Most High said it would come to him as a savory, as a savory,
sweet savor.
Sweet savor. He said it was sweet to him. You don't have to get that. You don't have to get it right now. But I'm just saying you have to get it. But the thing is, he said it's a sweet savor. He likes the smell of burnt fat. And so now they try to take it from him. Go ahead, read on.
Which I have commanded in my habitation.
See, he said, I commanded. The Most High is saying, I commanded this. Go ahead.
And honorest thy sons above me.
See, you honored your sons above me because when the sons were doing wicked, you didn't correct them. You talked to them, but you didn't punish them. Read on.
To make yourself fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of Israel, my people.
See, with all the top notch of all my people. Go ahead.
Verse 30. Wherefore the Lord God of Israel saith, I said indeed that thy house and the house of thy father should walk before me forever. But now the Lord saith.
He said, I said in the past that your house, the house of your fathers, would be before me forever. But check this out. But now the Lord saith,
be it far from me.
Be far from me. Get away from me.
For them that honor me I will honor, and they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed.
I'm going to get rid of y'all. I'm going to get rid of your household. Read on.
Behold, the days come that I will cut off thy arm and the arm of thy father's house, and there shall not be an old man in thy house.
Now, when he says I'll cut off your arm, it doesn't mean he's going to actually cut his physical arm. It's talking about the male line.
Lineage.
Because we know the lineage comes from the man. And that's why he comes back and says there shall not be an old man of thy household, meaning his family tree. The Most High is telling him, I'm going to cut off your family tree. Read on.
Verse 32. And thou shalt see an enemy in my habitation.
You're going to see an enemy. Now, my habitation, meaning in Israel. Eli, you're going to see an enemy in my habitation. Now, we read in Josephus at the very beginning of section 1, it said that they went to war against the Philistines. And then it went on to explain how we went to war. This is how it went down. Now, we're not going to get to the war with the Philistines tonight, but this is because of, it went down because of Eli, his sons, and the way he dealt with them. That's why the Most High said, not only am I going to cut off your household, and there'll be no more men, so your lineage, your family tree is going to die off. But at the same time, you're going to see an enemy come into the land. Go ahead.
In all the wealth which God shall give Israel, and there shall not be an old man in thy house forever. And the man of thine, whom I shall not cut off from my altar, shall be to consume thy eyes, and to grieve thine heart. And all the increase of thine house shall die in the flower of their age.
And the increase of your house, all your descendants, your children, your sons, your grandsons are going to die. It said the flower of their age. That's a young man. Young. Blossoming. In their prime. They're not going to get old. Because what do people want to do? You want to grow old. Principally. You want to grow old.
Live out your
life. Yeah.
Live your youth and
then grow old. You don't want to die young, because the alternative to growing old is dying young. Go ahead, read on, verse 34.
Verse 34.
We're going to finish this chapter.
And this shall be a sign unto thee.
This is going to be a sign to you, Eli.
Thou shalt come upon thy two sons, on Hophni and Phinehas, and one day they shall die, both of them.
Now imagine. Now we went into like how Hannah was in her emotional state. Now imagine the psychology of Eli. This prophet has come to him and is telling him, the Lord is telling you that both your sons are going to die on the same day. Now we know Eli loved them because he wasn't willing to pass judgment on them the way he should have. Okay. He perverted the Most High's judgment because for his love of them, because of his love for them. So he loved them. Now imagine as a parent, the prophet came and said, I'm going to kill not only one, I'm going to kill both your sons on the same day. Read on.
Verse 35. And I will raise me up a faithful priest that shall do according to that which is in my heart and in my mind. And I will build him a sure house, and he shall walk before my anointed forever.
So not only did he say, I'm going to kill your sons, and the thing is, remember, Eli's the high priest. So the way it was set up is that Eli's son should be the next high priest. And his sons, and Eli's grandson would be the next one, and on and on and on. Now the Most High said, I'm going to cut you off. to show you how horrible, how terrifying the Most High can be, it's not just that he killed Eli's sons. He told him about it first.
King of terrorists.
You know? So he knows, and the thing is, this is being told to Eli years after. Because remember, it said Samuel was growing up. So this has been years have passed since Eli had talked to his sons. So that also means years that they've been getting wild still.
Getting more wicked.
Getting more wicked. So now these years have passed, and now he's telling, and Eli's an old man. We already read that he's older now. So now he's an old man, realizing when you get older, you reflect. You know, people like to talk about their grandchildren and all that stuff. And now he's realizing, oh, dang. So where's his head at?
I coulda, shoulda.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda. But it's too late now, because the Most High is telling him what the judgment is. Read on.
Verse 36. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left in thy house shall come and crouch to him for a piece of silver and a morsel of bread, and shall say, Put me, I pray thee, into one of the priest's office, that I may eat a piece of bread.
So he's telling them, not only are the men going to die off, but anyone else left in your household is going to come to this person that I'm raising up to be in your place. And you're going to be begging, man, can I get a little piece of bread? Can I get a little piece? Can you break me off a little something, please?
But that's why David said, "You never seen a righteous man begging bread, forsaken or begging bread." So they're showing that this line of men, the righteousness wasn't going to reside in them.
Right.
Hey, just on this point, jump back to that Ecclesiasticus 16. We're going to end it at 10.
Yeah, please. Yeah, we're going to end it.
We got a few minutes.
Because this won't be another whole long run.
Right.
I'm gonna wrap up. I got a couple of things to wrap up with. Okay. Go ahead.
Read that verse 2 real quick.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 16 and verse 2.
Though
they multiply, rejoice not in them.
Right. You see, Eli had 2 sons, and they were multiplying in their greatness as far as their position, but the wrong way, because they weren't godly men. Go ahead.
Except the fear of the Lord be with them.
You see that? Read on.
Trust not thou in their life.
Come on.
Neither respect their multitude.
Read it. This is the key that I wanted to get to. Read.
For one that is just.
For what?
For one that is just.
The Most High was going to replace these 2 men with one just man.
Right.
Go ahead.
Is better than 1,000.
Come on.
And is better it is to die without children.
This was Eli's fate. He was better to die without children. Go ahead.
Than to have them that are ungodly.
You see that? And again, y'all can read that. I want him to finish it up. That way, when we end at a clean spot. Right? You can always pick up.
Absolutely.
Go ahead. So let's finish it out.
So basically, wrapping it up, we see in just this chapter, we see the righteousness. First of all, let's go back to our definitions. The sociology, the studying of our society. This is one aspect of our society, Israel's society, and how they dealt with one another. Just a few interactions of several individuals. We see the psychologies, the mental characteristics of what, number one, Hannah, and what she was going through, being tormented and picked on by Peninnah, the other wife who had children when she had none. So we see her psychology, but her mental state was that I'm going to be locked into what the Most High wants me to do. I'm going to be locked into truth and righteousness. That's why when she was upset, she went straight to the temple. Rather than being negative and wicked and evil, she went straight to the temple to pray to the Most High. She made a vow, and then to show her faith, once Eli said, you got it, go, be gone, you're good, the Most High's got you covered, she went, she didn't even worry about it any longer. She let it go. We have to learn how to do that sometimes. Once it's done, you got to let it go. There was nothing more she could do. She prayed to the Most High, she said she believed him, she had to let it go from that point on, let the Most High do what he's going to do. And the Most High answered her prayers. And then she came through with her portion of the vow. She did what she was supposed to do. Now, had she not done that, then something bad would have happened to Samuel. But she had that faith, and it was so strong, this son, this child, this firstborn child that she had, she gave to lifelong commitment to the Most High. Okay? Now, on the other hand, we see the psychology of Hophni and Phinehas.
Yeah.
And how negative they were. They were twisted. They were wicked. They were evil. That's why I said they did not know the Most High. They were sons of Belial. They were wicked and evil and reprobate. That's when the scriptures talk about reprobate. There was no good in them because they didn't want there to be. And when their father said, hey, you need to stop acting like this, they didn't turn from that.
They said, please.
Exactly. They said, oh, please. We're going to do what we're going to do. And it said that, in fact, in Josephus, it said that they didn't restrain from, there was no wickedness that they restrained themselves from.
Ooh.
That's what it talked about, was no wickedness. I mean, that's the examples they were taking. You can't, look, it's one thing if you go and steal something off of somebody's plate. It's another thing when you stealing their offering to the Most High. Now you messing up with their prayer to the Most High. And you don't know what the Most High has planned for them.
God.
You're interfering with their relationship with God. And that's where their minds, and they didn't care. And then turn around and raping women. You know, and then they got, their servants were involved in it. They had their servants, you go do this because I told you to. So now they got their servants involved in that. And it said they did it to all of Israel.
God.
It wasn't like, okay, we're going to do this one time. They went and did that. So where were their heads at?
Yep.
You see? And then Eli. Eli perverted his judgment. He got a little older, kind of like how Solomon. He got weaker in his old age. He gets a little softer, a little nicer. The edge is kind of gone. And he loves his sons. But he loved his sons more than he loved the Most High. He didn't maintain that faith. He didn't have the faith of Hannah about his sons. Hannah had the faith. Look at the faith she had for her son. And then his faith that he didn't go to the Most High. He didn't go to the Most High and sincerely ask the Most High for guidance to intercede for these cats. He just let them go and do it.
Yeah, his lack of faith.
His lack of faith, exactly. His lack of faith didn't, you know, it kept him from going to the Most High to deal with the way, and he knew what he was supposed to do, but he didn't want to do that because of his lack of faith. Hannah had the faith, and not only did she have, once she gave up the one son, she was blessed with more. Eli didn't have the faith, and so his were taken from him. And because because of his lack of faith, not only were his sons taken from him, but then all his descendants, all the male descendants. So that meant that if Phinehas and Hophni had sons, their sons were gone too. And there's more to it. We can't go into that today, but theirs were taken too. And because Eli perverted judgment as the high priest who sets the tone, and the brother brought out the scriptures about leaders and how they're supposed to deal, because he did not do what he was supposed to do, the Most High took his life as well. Then you look at Elkanah, Samuel's father, excuse me. He was a righteous man. Every year he did what he was supposed to do, going to Shiloh and giving the sacrifice. And when Hannah did what she had to do, he said, you do what's right. I'm not going to stand in the way of you, my wife, and her righteous interactions with the Most High. I'm not going to stand in the way. I'm going to let that happen. And so not only was it, because see, for him, not only did he get a son who was, you know, people talk about, you know, like this scandal, the college scandal with the rich folks.
Oh, paying to get it.
You know, yeah, I paid. My son went to Harvard. My daughter went to USC. You know, all that. People bragging about that. But you know what? My son's a prophet. My son serves the Most High and is righteous and is a prophet. He, not only did he have that son, they had more children. And not only that, but here's the most important thing. And I didn't bring this out earlier. Now, when Hannah was upset and Elkanah went to Hannah and said, why are you crying? Isn't being with me better than having 10 sons? Right. We read that in the scriptures, right? God. So his wife was always concerned and worried and crying and bothered about not having a child, right? God. But because of her faith and because of his faith and righteousness, his wife's no longer worried. Because not only did she have the son, but then she had other children. So now he ain't got to worry. She ain't crying no more. She ain't complaining no more. He ain't got to worry about that. So that's one thing that's off his mind. And that was a blessing because he didn't stand in the way of what the vow she made to the Most High. he was a righteous man. So you see all these different interactions just in, and we've got, you know, what, 5 individuals? 6, 7 with Samuel, 7 people. You got Elkanah, his 2 wives, Eli, his 2 sons, and then Samuel. So we just read about 7 individuals and how they interacted, and we've covered all these different types of things. You see righteousness, wickedness, you see interactions between the 2 different sets of people. It's all there.
Improper judgment, bad
Exactly.
judgment calls,
Right.
bad leadership, bad motivation, bad intention. We see it all
the way around. So it's a lot. We just covered a couple chapters.
Yeah, that was. Listen,
Sure appreciate y'all coming out.
Oh, come on.
The water.
Listen, that was a good class. Good brother ahead. That was a very good class. We got 40 people. Everybody watching.
Everybody enjoyed it.
Yeah, we hope y'all enjoyed it. We definitely gonna.
There's gonna be some more.
Yeah, we're gonna have a brother come back and try to make it a thing.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna work.
You know what I'm saying?
A scheduled appearance.
Yeah, we definitely gonna make this happen more often. It's needed, man. The history is good.
Good stuff.
The different perspectives on the scriptures. Just a reminder about Passover. It's the 21st of April. Please RSVP. If you need the location, it's in the description. If you want to help out with that, again, you can help out. What else is there? Passover. Yeah, we couldn't get to questions, but if y'all got questions, hold those till Friday. You know how we do. We ain't running. We'll get to the questions. We just wanted the brother to bring out the information. If you got any questions on the topic, you can hold them for Friday. Anything off the topic, hold them for Friday. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to end it here. Let's salute them online and let's say shalom.
Shalom!
Everybody else, I might need 100. Wapanya, Yerushalayim. Razapesis. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was. Appreciate that. Yeah. You came with some goodness. That was. You know, I go to Samuel.
Who, me?
Okay, yeah, got you. You brought out some points though. That
good class, been tuning in for years.
You brought out some points in there that was like, ooh, I missed that.
Actually, that's what I was watching.
Who's that?
Mashaba.